right, good evening, everyone. Hopefully my somewhat hastily made layout here is okay. Corey might want to move his camera over just a smidgen, just a smidge.
Just a touch. Or the other way.
Yeah, yeah, that way. That's the correct direction. Oh, no, not that way. Not that.
That's way.
You were right the first time. There we go.
Okay. I guess we'll see where I'm at now.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing? Anyone here play way too much Astrobot this weekend like me and Corey did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's shorten my headphones here.
This is probably like the first thing of note other than like eat and sleep I've done like since picking up Astrobot on Friday that wasn't Astrobot.
Dang.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Kind of got the platinum trophy already. Couldn't put it down.
Oh yeah,
you did already?
Yeah.
Great.
Corey's pretty close too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, it worked out in a good way for me. So my wife was out of town, and the kids were at school. I'd finished up like all my day job work, like very early, and the game showed up on Friday at 10 a.m. So I'm like, I got some time before I got to pick up the kids at 3 o'clock. So I'm just gonna do that. So that's what I did.
That's awesome.
So
it was just like a whole bunch of good circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was
a bunch of time at Space Marine.
I've been basically taking like a staycation the past week anyway because I worked way too hard in August. So. Oh, oops! Let me move
can you
the. Yeah, I need to move that. I didn't know where that was.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It looked like we're trying to censor you.
It's just like one single blue bar over his mouth.
Beep beep. I tried to talk about Space Marine and I got censored.
I didn't even realize that it came out too. Like I don't know. I'm not a big.
It hasn't. That comes out tomorrow. I'm an idiot and spent way too much money on it, so I got early access to play all weekend.
Did they do something similar where you could like pay some extra money and get early access for like?
I'm totally the dummy that keeps doing that too. Like that's the reason the industry does that. It's this guy right here. I keep doing it. I shouldn't.
Well,
I was really excited for it.
It made a big difference with that, like that college football game for EA, right? Like they sold a whole bunch of like early access.
Yeah.
Or early, like for people to play it 3 days early.
But anyway, we're joined today by Chris here, who you are the developer, or I guess the main developer, or you tell us what your involvement is and how all this came to be.
Sure. My name is Christopher Dershman. I'm the CEO, creative director of Crazy Viking Studios. At the time when Volgarr 2 started, I was a creative director for Bothell, Washington for Digital Eclipse. And Volgarr 2, well, that was made by a bunch of people, whereas the first one was made by 2 people.
Right.
And we got, obviously when when you have a publisher backing you and there's a lot more money, you can do bigger and better things. So the game's quite a bit bigger. As a matter of fact, I just saw somebody pop up in a chat room over here. Mikhail LaRoche was our main engineer on the project for Volgarr 2. He's chilling in a chat channel, I just noticed.
Oh, so...
And there's a couple people in there I recognize, actually.
We've met Mikhail LaRoche. I feel like at the G Anime.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure that
was
did.
A long time
that was
ago.
Our first convention. And
yes.
I feel like we spoke with him and somebody else.
Yes, yeah. There was like a group of 3 or 4 of you, and you had like a bunch of rare, just sort of some oddball Nintendo hardware, if I remember. Like there was like a presentation on like Famicom Disk System and 64DD and things like that. Yeah. I remember that.
Hopefully I'm not mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that that name is very familiar.
Yeah,
Shadow Mask, I see you pop up there. You should DM me your actual name at some point, because I knew everybody that worked at Signal. I'd like to find out who you were. That's cool.
Yeah, I know Shadow Mask has a lot of background in audio engineering. Helped out a lot with a lot of those Saturn, those like new like Saturn translations that have like the audio integrated and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So my experience with Volgarr is fairly limited, other than friend of ours who we stream with, or I stream with every Monday night. Our friend Drumble from the Backlogger. He played this back when it was fairly new, I believe, and
the first one.
The first game, yes. And he absolutely loved it. I mean, both of us are like, you know, old school NES people at heart, you know, so we eat up games like this. And I only got this, I have the physical PS4 version. I got it, I don't remember what year this physical came out, but it was either like last year or the year before. I had like several things like addressed to go to my parents' house, and I was like, hey, if something arrives in my name, you can open it up and just give it to me for Christmas. And I completely forgot about this. So I was.
Do you remember
really,
who put it together?
Say what?
Do you remember who put it together? Like, which version of the physical did you get?
There were
hard
multiple.
Copy?
This is hard copy. I wasn't aware there were multiple physicals actually.
I'm just trying to remember it in my head because it was a while ago. Yeah, if it was hard copy, it was in.
I'm pretty sure that sounds familiar.
2018 or so.
Oh, okay.
It might have been around that time.
Well, maybe it was more recent or
no,
further
I
back
think it was 2018 because I'm pretty sure that it was. When
it was quite a while after it came out. The physical did. Yeah. I mean, it was like yeah.
This was the only physical I was. Was there ever a Switch physical?
No, unfortunately, we ran into problems to get that to happen. So maybe someday.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was from Hard Copy Games, but it looks like at least mine shipped in January of 21.
Oh, okay. So I guess it was a couple of years ago.
Okay, so pre-orders might have came up and shipped that or something. I don't know. Yeah, something like that, but
like we were kind of discussing it before the stream. I was asking you, I'm like, hey, I'm looking at the controls here. Like, is it possible to play this with an NES Joy-Con? And that's like, I like to get retro style games for the Switch because I really like, a big part of the reason is I like the controller options I have on Switch. I like those like official NES, official Super Nintendo, like the authentic Sega style controllers as well. Like I really like I just buy a lot of retro style games for the Switch. So I thought I would give this a try with the NES controller. We were going over the controls here, which the things like the up plus attack, down plus jump just being combined to one button, that's kind of superfluous. I get a lot of joy out of using a controller with the minimum number of buttons needed to play a game because it feels right to me. I also want to applaud whoever was responsible for including sharp bilinear filtering in your menu here. You get that crisp pixel look, but you don't get the shimmer.
Yep.
That's
we were very, very, very adamant about that and careful about that because we wanted to be able to replicate proper pixel look on LCD TVs. Now that's this again 10 years ago. This is like we were just starting to get 16:9s and stuff like that. Really, 12 years ago where we started developing. Being like a standard, right? So we were trying to figure out a way because at that time a lot of the pixel games were getting stretched or weird stuff was going on. You also didn't have scan lines really anymore and stuff like that. By the way, before anybody asked me, the reason this game didn't have scan lines is because the game actually does like a Neo Geo zoom in and out, like you can do that. So without it actually coming from the hardware, the television itself, it wouldn't look right, no matter what you did. So with another side note on that, you can't play the game in 4x3, and you can install this onto an arcade machine and play it on an actual CRT if you wanted to. But when we were developing and testing this game way back when, like when we were originally doing the game, we actually played it on USB NES controllers. I mean, they didn't have the wireless ones back then, but that's how we played the game, and that's how we developed the game. It's like everything we did, we were like, we need to make this game cool on this, and then everything else is just extra.
So the roll is designed to make you face the other way, I guess, for like, do you have invincibility frames or anything like that when you're rolling?
When you roll, for most man-sized monsters and some other creatures, I won't spoil things for you, you can roll through them, and then that is a way for you to roll through them and then get the drop on them and hit them from the back before they turn around.
Now, that's really cool.
Is this crystal decoration, or is it like a checkpoint or anything like that?
It is a checkpoint. So there's two kinds of checkpoints in this game. Do you want me to tell you, or do you want to figure it out?
Well, this
you'll see in just a minute, anyways.
I don't seem to be able to interact with it, so I'm assuming that's just like a free checkpoint. I don't know if there could possibly be like
that's exactly what it is. I'm pretty sure that it's like
they're automatic.
Yeah. Well, later on, you'll see in a second that you have a checkpoint. I think you can destroy it then, and
Yes, those are optional checkpoints. If you don't want them, you can destroy them. You'll get lots of points if you do that, but you make the game a lot harder on yourself.
It's a nice way to manage the difficulty on your own, I think.
Oh, okay. So the double jump is also an attack.
Yeah.
It's also the only way you can change direction once you've committed to a jump, just like Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
Right.
Oh, I see.
I was gonna say, ask you what are the main influences for this besides, Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, that series, but also like Rastan, of course. What else would you list as influences?
was that a optional checkpoint there that I just destroyed?
Yep. And now if you die in that fire, you'll go all the way back to the crystal instead of stopping at the stone.
Yeah. I have demonstrated this.
So
I was getting a little too experimental with my moves.
So the difference between the crystals and the runestones, the crystals, you'll get them whenever you transition a map. And so no matter what, if you smash all the runestones, you go all the way back to the crystal. Like, you can't go any further back than that. But you'll find them at the map transitions. But the runestones you can smash for points, and the more points you get, of course, you get extra lives and stuff like that, which prevent you from using a continue. You really don't want to use a continue because that's bad. Every time you continue, you lose a little part of your soul and become more undead, which you'll probably discover a little bit later.
So I see I've got kind of a upgrade progression of some kind. I picked up boots or something.
Every item that you have up in that bar allows you to take a hit before you die. So it's kind of like it shows you what gear you have and power and abilities you have access to, but it also gives you a visual representation of how much of your health bar you have left. Right now, you've got 2 hits before you die.
The sort of that, just the way it's got that kind of gold trim and the linear progression of it kind of makes me think of Legendary Axe a bit.
Yep. I got a couple of super chats I'm going to read. Oops. First off, Enchilada Backloggery has been a member for 10 months in a row, saying, good evening, gents. Hope you enjoy Volgarr. Was at PAX West, saw limited run games, thought of you try, and said hi to the team. Anyways, have fun. Thank you.
Nice.
And also, there was $10 from S'mores PT, saying, good evening, MLiG crew. Enjoying tonight's stream after having a fun weekend of 100%ing Astrobot fully with some puzzle bobble, every bobble, and tea to go along with it. Happy Saturday or Sunday. Thank you.
Cool
Thank you.
Yeah. To answer your question about influences, it was Super Ghouls and Ghosts, of course, Rastan, because barbarians and stuff. I love Rastan. But the color palette and the way it looks, I'm a big fan of the CPS1, CPS2 era Capcom games. So we pulled from things like Magic Sword and Castlevania, from like the way that Simon Belmont's whip works. If you hit the button, there's a slight delay. So you have to tactically use your attacks, because his sword basically functions like Simon Belmont's whip.
Right. Where you have like that wind up.
Yep. And you can actually hit things behind you when you do that too, by the way, which is a lot of people don't really know that right away.
That's cool.
It's kind of a hidden feature.
I keep screwing up with the top torso of the zombie comes for you.
Yeah, it's a little tricky there because
if you hit it while you're standing, I don't know why I was trying to hit it crouching.
Yeah, that's the trick. The green skeleton trains you to swing low because he's got a shield, and then we throw the zombies at you. If you keep doing that, they pop off and get you.
So this is significantly more complex than the first one, because I know the first one, like there was even like a Dreamcast version of the first one.
Yes, that was ported to the Dreamcast. The first game. The first game is quite a bit smaller. The reason it was able to work on a Dreamcast is on the first game anyways, because the levels were a lot smaller. We were able to chop it up and stream in textures that were appropriate for the Dreamcast CPU and graphics pipeline to get it in bite-sized pieces. The Dreamcast version is only in 4:3, and it's not the best version of that game. But it was really impressive, and it's a really cool version of that game, especially if you really love your Dreamcast. It's really awesome. But but it does make some concessions to get on there. It's not the what I would say the prime example of that game, but it's still really, really good.
I'm under the impression I have unlimited spears. There's no whoa.
I mean, it's about learning it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I love. I love the feeling of like I do not mind dying again and again at a game, because I feel like it just gives you more opportunity to learn the game and for it to like make an impression, right? Like I always talk about how like Sonic 1 took me so many more attempts to finish than Sonic 2 or 3. And of course, 3 has, saves and infinite continues and stuff. But I remembered Sonic 1 so much more than I remembered 2 and 3, just because,
it's fresh and new.
It took, I mean, I'm talking much later though, because I was a Nintendo kid growing up. But like when I finally got around to playing them, I remembered it much more just because it took more effort. It took more effort to get through it. So I do not begrudge a game making you try again. I am not necessarily the best, but I love just the feeling of sticking at it.
We added some new powers. Of course, there's new enemies and stuff because it is a sequel and stuff like that. But as you're talking about your experience with the Sonic games, it's similar with Volgarr as well. It's like if you were just coming off fresh of a play of the first game, there's going to be a lot of familiarity for you here in the second game, which is going to give people a little bit of comfort and frankly, sometimes a little bit of overconfidence, because there are some changes to the way that some things work. But we wanted that to happen. We wanted people who are fans of the first game to get something that did feel fresh, but also familiar. And that's a very fine line to juggle. It's very difficult, especially because I never intended to actually make the sequel. I always thought the first game was just a standalone good game. It was just going to be that,
Right. I mean, I was so surprised when I finally heard that it was happening.
Yeah, I feel
a
like
lot of public pressure
a long time ago about how you said or somebody said, it was probably you, said that you don't really like feel a need to like do a second one.
No, not at all. Like we at the time we did the original game, we're like, yep, this is everything we wanted to do with this. This is cool. Like, and if anybody wants to play Volgarr, they can just go back and play Volgarr just like they do with Rastan or Super Ghouls and Ghosts or whatever. I mean, you always want, when you like those kinds of games, you always want more of those kind of games, but it's always cool to kind of go back and just play those games too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For sure.
But we made this because it sounds funny because I'm talking two heads of the snake here. We made this game because Taryn and I got so tired of playing Super Ghouls and Ghosts over and over again. Those games, we wanted something fresh and new. But the tragedy to this story is that because we made the original Volgarr game, it was never fresh and new to us. It ended up being more fresh and new things for other people. And we were kind of hoping that by doing that and making that game, and that game ended up being popular, we were hoping that other people would start to do it and give us something cool to play with. But unfortunately, Metroidvanias and stuff took off, which are also really cool games, but we never really got the thing we were hoping to get.
I know. We often talk about how, like when Shadow Complex came out, people were like, dang it. People were like, oh my gosh, like this is just like Super Metroid. Like people don't make games like this anymore. And now people don't make anything but that kind of game anymore.
Yeah, and they're cool games. If you're a fan of those games, it's like the golden era for you right now. I mean, that's great.
I love them too, but they've, it takes a really special one now.
Yeah,
right?
That's
not
true
even
too.
close to being like special anymore. And it takes something like really, really good for me to even have an interest in it. And in a way, like if I see Metroidvania like in the description, it's like starting to stir that same feeling of roguelike for me, which is just like I don't
Souls-like and stuff like that.
Except
anytime a game is hard, someone says it's Souls-like, and sometimes people put that on here too, which is, I think that's okay, but it's also not really truly an accurate description of what this game is either. But
I mean, but Coury, you have started to be curious about roguelike stuff a lot more than you used to be.
For sure. So I look into that more, but I mean, there was a long time there where it would immediately make me decide I don't want to buy this.
Oh, I mean, same
I
me.
mean, randomly generated levels still does nothing for me. But if it's
we could have a design conversation.
Like
we can have a big
sections. I'm okay with that.
A big design discussion on that, which I won't go into here. But one of the things that I always wanted to try, we tried to do this in a project that we have ongoing right now, is that randomized anything can never truly give you anything that's the same as a handcrafted experience.
Exactly.
But one of the things we wanted to try to do, what we're working on now in a different project, is that we're trying to make a buttload of handcrafted scenarios that might be rearranged in different ways. But we control that. Like, we know what the player is going to get in some element. They don't know. They think it's random, but it's not truly random.
Right. And that's like that, I think, has made me more open to like roguelites in general. I've only really played like Hades and Returnal, but those are just made up of like handcrafted sections, but they're randomly organized.
Your checkpoints, you keep breaking them. All you have to do to activate them is walk by. So I don't know if you're doing that on purpose or not.
I was not doing that on purpose. I
just wanted to make sure, because now you're going to go way back when you die.
I wasn't even thinking about it. I'm just in like smash everything mode right now.
Yeah, don't get nervous. You can get to another checkpoint here. You're golden. Whenever the Valkyrie shows up, just walk by it. She's there. She activates it for you. You're good to go.
Yeah, I'm just in, pure Viking smash mode.
Yep. Get into the rhythm of stabbing everything in the face in this game, and then then
so this just came out, right? I know that there was like a significant patch. I feel like I saw something on social media about like a new mode that was added.
A big change to one of the biggest features in this game.
Was that a free hit? That
is, yeah.
That icon I had?
Yeah, so the stream that we're seeing is a little bit behind what you're actually doing. Yeah. So yeah, that's Mjolnir, Thor's power Mjolnir, that gives you a free hit and gives you like a smart bomb, automatic smart bomb move. You can't use it manually. It just saves you from being hit.
I hit that Valkyrie. I don't know if that was I got achievement of some kind.
She just brought you an extra life.
Oh, nice. Do I just? Well,
the patch...
next time I will just walk by the checkpoint.
But
oh my goodness,
that's after you die, right?
What's that?
That must be better, like just starting over.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, because
I probably should actually. Now that I kind of know what I'm doing, let's try that.
I mean, it's not putting you back any further.
Yeah,
I mean, I just have to do
which is actually really bad for you.
Yeah, I just have to do the I just have to do the tutorial again, but that's not a big deal. Yeah, now that I'm figuring things out, it probably is a good idea.
So when the game first came out, we had to incorporate a way to provide an easy mode. And I didn't want to just have the game have an easy mode. So what I wanted to do is incorporate it into the narrative. So every time you use a continue, you start to become more of an undead zombie, and eventually you succumb to the power of evil. And once that happens, in the original version of the game, it just kicked in. It gave you assistance, and it turned on easy mode, but people didn't like that. So the major patch, what it did was make that optional. And then it also made it to where if you're just really struggling with this game, you can just turn it on from the menu right now and become undead and turn that mode on. But the problem is that once you do that on this profile, you're stuck like that. And you get the worst ending because it allows you to not,
you could use
turn
it
on
to learn
cheat. Yeah. You can use it to learn the game, but cheating wise, it's not really cheat, but using the easy mode, it doesn't allow you to turn it on, go to 3 levels, turn it off, and then pretend like you never used it. And then try to get a better ending because you kind of crutched on a couple of the levels. So once you turn it on, you're stuck with it for that profile anyway, unless you delete your profile. But now with the major patch, it makes that optional. So even if you do become fully undead, you use 6 continues, it'll say, hey, do you want this help? We can give it to you, or you can just continue to play the way you're playing, the way you have it right now, but you're still going to get the worst ending either way. It's just like what playstyle you prefer.
Yeah. Is there additional content if you get to the end of the game, or is it just a different ending? Like, is it still like, do you have a different final boss or anything like that, or is that too spoilery?
There's both. That's not spoilery now. That's like all over the place. But there's both. There's a whole entire. If you use less than a couple continues, you get access to a whole new extra level and a final boss. And then that's like kind of the same thing as the Valkyrie path that we had in the original game. And then there's also 5 other endings. One of the things we found out in the original game is that we had the Valkyrie path and the Crystal path, but 90% of the players that played the original game never saw half the game's content. They just thought the Crystal path of the game was the game, and they beat it and like, yeah, we're done. And then they didn't realize that like 50%, you know how Super Ghouls and Ghosts, when you beat it, it says, nah, you gotta go back and get the bracelet and run through again.
Yep. Right.
We kind of had a similar thing, but it wasn't just do the game again. It was, here's a whole, like, completely new levels, completely new, like all this stuff, like, but it was limited lives, like a true arcade game. It's like, okay, you practiced through the game in a Crystal path, but now we're going to challenge you as if this was a real arcade game. You got limited lives to get through the whole thing. And barely anybody did it. So we wanted to figure out a way to make that better for the second game here, where a majority of people can see the core content of the game and not feel like they, find out 10 years later, like, oh man, I didn't realize that this whole, I've got a half a game I never beat over here. Like, yeah. Because that would be a real bummer feeling, because I don't know if people would be disappointed by that, feel like they got gypped or deprived of something, or I don't want people to feel bad about the stuff we're making them, right? So
right.
Although it did create kind of a unexpected side effect of those 10% of the people that did do that, having this like elite status. And so while developing this early on, some of those folks were asking, well, what are you going to give to us? Like, if you're going to take all that other stuff away, what are we going to get? And that's how we ended up still like having one new level that you would unlock, one world and one new final boss, rather than half the game being put behind that rope. I legitimately thought that more people would be able to do that, but games have kind of, as you guys know, games have kind of become something else in modern times. So, these titles are kind of niche, however you pronounce that. I love them. Fortunately, enough people love these kinds of games that they keep supporting them so we can keep making them.
Right.
But you're never gonna, this is never gonna sell 10 million copies like Street Fighter or something like that. But it does well enough.
I think you can. I bet you could do the double jump and smash those spikes with your sword.
Well, I was thinking I could probably kind of down thrust them. I bet I can do that.
Yeah, that probably will work too. Guess we'll find out.
Could experiment.
There's $5 from Jonathan Henson. Here. Thank you.
I
just showed up jumping on the spear reminds me of Quackshot. This game looks awesome.
What reminds them of Quackshot?
Jumping on the spear.
Oh yeah.
Like jumping on the plungers,
I love Quackshot.
Yeah. Good. So when you get the money, like is there like a shop system or anything later on?
That's your score, and the more treasure that you get is tied to when you are awarded extra lives.
Oh, I see.
And at the end of the game, I mean, it'll show you like how much treasure you accumulated and stuff. So if you were like an arcade purist, you could brag about how much treasure you had versus your buddy that lived down the road. We didn't have any kind of Black Tiger shop or anything of that nature where you could buy like potions or anything like that. Maybe for the third. Maybe that's the new mechanic for the third game where you run into an old man and who's standing out in the middle of the wilderness for no reason.
On the table?
What's that?
Making a third one is on the table at this point?
Oh, it's always on the table, whether these things are profitable or not. I mean, a lot of the times these games get made in my free time anyway. This is kind of a fluke where a publisher came up and wanted to have it made.
Yeah. But, so Digital Eclipse, I guess, provided support for this, or did anybody on the team there, from Digital Eclipse, work on it, or is it more of a business thing?
Both. So what happened with this title came about from public pressure. A different publisher was noticing the public pressure because it was years and years of people asking for us. What are you guys doing? Where's the second game? And somebody came out and reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd like to have the game. We'd like to help you get this game made. We'll publish it." But at the time, I'm working at Digital Eclipse because I was taking a break from all this. And I presented it to Digital Eclipse, and they're like, "Well, we have a publishing initiative, a self-publishing initiative we're trying to do. How about we give you a counter offer and keep it in-house?" I was like, "Well, that's great because now my two jobs became one job."
Right.
Digital Eclipse was funding this game, which for my other company, and then I didn't have to work 80 hours a week. I was only working a normal amount of time. And so that ended up being pretty cool. And that's how that came about. And then Digital Eclipse provided, there's a lot of people who formerly worked on the first game in some capacity. We had a designer, Ted, who helped with some level layouts and stuff like that in his free time. And Nikita Malko, who was the composer that we hired, contract composer. We had contract background artists too, May and Ashley. And Digital Eclipse provided a producer, Calvin Vu, and I don't think I'm missing. Oh, Bob Baffy. I always forget Bob Baffy. I'm sorry, Bob. I do that all the time. I apologize. Bob did an amazing job with the sound effects. The team is quite a bit bigger, and that's the nice thing about it, is because Digital Eclipse was providing the funding for this, full funding. The original game, we bootstrapped that sucker, and we pulled out of our savings account, selling our cars, all the stuff just to get it made. The first game cost just over $500,000 to make.
Wow. Really?
And we did it. Yeah, we did all encompassing.
Yeah.
This one was quite a bit more expensive, but in doing so, we had a lot more support and a lot bigger team. And a slightly longer development schedule. And one of the nice things I thought is that we got backgrounds. The original game, I had to do all the backgrounds in 2 weeks.
Oh.
Because we were like, literally we were running out of money. We had to do something. We had to get the game out, and Adult Swim was helping us get it onto Steam. And the timing of everything, I did not have any time whatsoever. So if you compare the two games visually, you'll see I cut corners massively on the first game. I would make suggestive shapes in the background on layers and then blur it, and then so it looked like there's like a depth of field.
Yeah.
You know? So the effect actually worked, but I mean, if I were to ever do anything, I'd go back and redo those backgrounds on that first game and give it like a director's cut or something like that. I would do that, because that's the most disappointing part of that game.
Happen at this point, right?
What's that?
I mean, that seems like something a lot of people have done that. I mean, I can't imagine, like it would need to be as extensive as like that the Braid Anniversary Edition.
Oh no! Yeah, I would just redo some of the stuff in it, and like I wouldn't change any of the gameplay or anything like that at all. No, I'd just make the graphics a little bit better and more polished and up to speed, as to make it more comparable with the first one. Yeah. I mean, with the second game, like now he's older with gray hair, his shield is cooler looking, he's a little bit more powerful at the start, where Volgarr in the first game was younger. He had a wooden shield that would break and he'd be naked basically. So I wouldn't want to change any of that. I just want to make the backgrounds a little prettier and more polished. And
I mean, is there anything you could do to get the first game like running in this engine? Or
it's the same.
Okay,
it's exactly the same. Yeah, this game was built in our proprietary Crazy Engine. We call it Crazy Engine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's basically built for making 2D games on modern platforms. A lot of modern engines like Unity and Unreal and stuff like that, at the time we were making this, did not do this really well at all. It's a little bit of a trickery that's going on here. The game is actually in 3D. These are all animated textures. But when we were trying to do this back in the day, a lot of graphics cards and stuff couldn't handle the texture sizes. And that sounds like crazy to say that, because you got these really super realistic games like Call of Duty and all this other stuff at the time, and it's like, well, why can't I get Volgarr the Viking to run? Well, you're talking about 10,000 pixel by 10,000 pixel texture and multiple layers, and these are massive textures that weren't even on Call of Duty models or backgrounds and stuff. You got these video cards that are like, oh, we got 1024 by 1024 resolution textures on our models. I'm like, well, that's cute. Like, multiply that by 100, and that's what we're trying to make in our sprite-based game, and then make it run in a modern video card pipeline is a very difficult thing to do, because modern games have moved on. They've moved on to 3D and streaming and shaders and all that other stuff.
Right.
So making a game like this was really challenging. So we ended up writing the Crazy Engine.
Right.
Nowadays, you've got a lot more options. Like, they've all kind of realized that indies like to do sprite games. They like to do 2D games and stuff like that. So Unreal's gotten better at it. Unity's gotten better at it. Godot's gotten good at it. There's Game Maker and all these other things now. But Crazy Engine is a really cool engine. Yeah, we have our own. It has a really cool editor in it. And if Mikhail's still in here, he did some really good upgrades to it for the second game. And, it's sticking with it. And to do games of this ilk, especially platformers, or to do RPGs or action RPGs like Zelda, or pretty much any kind of 2D game that you can think of, fighting games or whatever, the Crazy Engine's a great engine to work in.
What have you made anything yet other than the Volgarr games?
Yes, but not publicly shown it. I think the only thing that the public's actually seen outside of the Volgarr games was a demo that we had taken to a couple of conventions for a game that we were working on called Eternal Helix, which is a game about a future descendant of Volgarr, like thousands of years down the road, basically a space Viking that where she gets trapped on a game show that's kind of like the Running Man, and she's unaware of it.
Yeah.
And the reason it's called the Eternal Helix is because she dies over and over and over again, and everybody's watching her on this thing, like a television show, like betting and seeing how far she's going to get, because she's like this genetic superhero kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't, and the whole premise of that game is her kind of realizing slowly that she is dealing with this. And then she basically, it's like the Running Man. She breaks out and confronts people and eventually escapes from this thing. But she ends up being like in this, you always got these movies where they're in these prisons that are on a barge in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so they can't really get away. Well, she's in the same thing. She figures it out, tries to escape, but she's on a space station to nowhere. And anyway, without spoiling too much stuff, but that's what that game was. That's the only other game that we've actually ever shown publicly, and didn't quite get finished. It's on the back burner. That was actually that was a pretty cool game.
Well, this does well enough. Then I'm sure this one is already done well enough, considering it's. When did this come out?
I hope so. Came out on August 6th.
Oh, okay.
It hasn't been that
just
long.
over a month.
Like, yeah. And a physical version just went up for order.
Oh, is it up for order
With
already?
Rocket, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really limited too. So if you guys want to if it's important to you, you need to make sure to pre-order it because it's only going to be available to do that for a couple of weeks, I think.
Is it
It's
open pre-order
not a long
or is there a limited number?
I'm not sure. Maybe both. You might want to talk to Rocket about that. I think it's only for a couple weeks.
I did not realize they were available already, so I will definitely be ordering as soon as I can.
It's Switch and PS5, I think. I don't know if there's a PS4 version. I know it's Switch and PS5 at the minimum.
Steam has a bundle of 1 and 2 also on it, I think. Not physically, obviously, but
yeah, there's you can get digital bundle versions on all the platforms, I think. I think it's Switch, PS5, Steam, Xbox.
What all is it available for digitally?
Everything that people play games on nowadays. So I think I got to count on my hand now. I think it's Steam and GOG, PlayStation, Switch, Xbox. I don't think I'm missing anything.
yeah,
Well, Epic Game Store, but I don't think it's on that. But maybe one day, I don't know. It's definitely not on the Amazon store because my grandmother at bridge parties sell more copies than Amazon.
I mean, there's no reason not to put it on everything that you can.
Right.
I mean,
unless you
like
lose
another
money doing
benefit
it.
of having Digital Eclipse backing for that is that it's like helps get this stuff probably published. I don't know. I heard about
do it
like
faster.
some like developer has been waiting like months to get stuff on Xbox on the Xbox marketplace.
That always happens.
Yeah.
That always happens. The nice thing about Digital Eclipse is it was somebody else's job to make that happen this time, which is really nice. That's Calvin. If he's in here watching it, he knows it's Calvin, and thank you, Calvin. So one of the reasons that it didn't hit all one place on the original game at the same time was because of those hardships. Like, and it's also the indie space is kind of new. So we hit Steam because that was easy. But then we had to wait for dev kits. And because there's only the two of us, we had to put all of our time and energy into one console at a time. Whereas with Digital Eclipse's support, we were able to, as you said, hit a lot of those things all at once.
I mean, did you even have to have your hands on like the actual porting process, or was that all someone else's problem?
That was Mikhail.
Okay.
That was Mikhail and Calvin. No, I didn't have to do any of that, which is awesome because that's like my least favorite part of the whole project. And Mikhail loves that stuff. So I'm sure he doesn't want to draw all the stuff though.
Yep. I mean, it's nice to find people that are like into doing the stuff that's, you don't want to do. Like I really like
so
authoring
stupid. I forgot
Blu-rays and
I forgot about the spear in the wall.
And Try was like, I don't ever want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the monotony of doing stuff like that.
I'm going to answer X4N's question here. He says, Chris, have you ever thought about developing or porting to retro consoles? All the time, but not this game. This game is not, and the engine is not designed to work on retro consoles. It's only designed to work on modern stuff. And we were just having this conversation a little bit earlier. You might have missed it, but the way that Volgarr works, it's actually a 3D game with massive animated textures. And like it looks like a Super Nintendo or a Genesis game, but it does too many things in particles, too many 3D effects, too many things to truly work on a Super Nintendo or a Genesis or even a Neo Geo. The farthest back that we could go is the Dreamcast, and the second game very likely would not work on the Dreamcast. It's just much bigger than the first game, and the first game really pushed it as it was already. But yes, I think about doing retro console games all the time.
Same engine worked on the Dreamcast, but that's as far as you can go.
You know, I don't really. The funny thing about that is, like, because of my age, I still don't think of the Dreamcast as being a retro console. Like,
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a relative question if who you're asking. Like, there's people out there, man. It's like, oh, you play retro games? Yeah, the PS3 was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen eventually.
Yeah. It's that whole, what's that Saving Private Ryan gif? Or Jeff,
yeah.
However you guys say it, where he just turns instantly old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you find, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint there, Try. Anytime that you find in the environment, like a little image of a dagger sticking out of the ground, there's going to be a secret somewhere near there.
Oh. Did I pass something by down here that I should investigate?
No, I was just letting you know that, so it'd give you something else to look for.
So how long was like the full development for this one? Like when did you start?
Oh man, see if I can remember that. I think we started in February of 2 years ago. The idea of the game was it was supposed to have come out with the 10th anniversary of the first game, and we ran over a little bit. I want to say the game took roughly just under 18 months, just under a year and a half to do. But I mean, some of that was a little bit of downtime because we had to wait on a couple things, and then of course I don't know if I really considered some of the porting process to be part of the like actual development time of a project.
So that this crystal here, is this a forever checkpoint, or am I still in the same level?
I'm guessing it's probably a new screen.
You're in the same level, so now you're in level 1-2.
Okay, so if I lose my last life here, I'm still back to where I was, right?
Right here.
If I continue, I will continue here.
Yes.
Okay. So
if you continue, you will also continue at a runestone that you don't break.
Well, I've been passing the other stones that I haven't.
No. That's not right. You're sorry about that. That's not right. Like if you quit the game and load up your game, it'll start you at the last runestone that you cleared. If you're quitting out of the game,
if you're quitting, but if you continue, you still go back to the previous.
You go all the way back to the crystal with your last crystal.
Right.
Yeah, you won't go all the way back to the 1-1. You'd start again at 1-2.
Nice.
Sorry, I was confused about your question. Sorry about that.
As the Arioka is asking what's in the first Volgarr released on the Dreamcast, how many different platforms did that first one come out on?
It almost came out on the 3DS. We have some really cool. We got it up and running. The reason it didn't come out on the 3DS was because it was just too hard to see the action because the screen was so small. You just couldn't do anything about it. It just didn't play well because of that. But technically, we got it running. But the ones that did come out on, I'm gonna have to think real hard on this. It was the PlayStation Vita. It was the PlayStation 3. We had a combo deal. If you bought it on PlayStation 3, you get it on Vita too, or vice versa. So you bought it once and got it on both platforms.
Oh, nice.
And then Xbox One, Wii U, Switch. Of course, all the PC stuff, Mac and Linux. Yeah, so it was on... And in that time period, pretty much same thing. It was pretty much on everything. But it was staggered release on those consoles though, versus like what we were able to do this time.
I mean, with your own engine, like all those supporting all those platforms, like sounds challenging.
It was. That's why we had to do a staggered release. And unfortunately, we had a lot of friends in high places at all of these console manufacturers that allowed us to get a foot in the door. Like previously, the original time that we tried to get Volgarr the Viking on Nintendo platforms, they said no because it was too gory. And we were like, well, we just spent the last like 12 years of our lives doing nothing but making games for you, Nintendo. So maybe you can do us a solid, you know? And then so they're like, okay. So they we were able to do that. And then they helped us, they worked with us really well to get it onto their platforms and stuff and help them with their behind the scenes API applications and stuff. But
cool.
So it was a really fun time period there. And same with Microsoft. Microsoft was able to get us dev kits for free. So that helped a lot when you're bootstrapping a game, or even you're a small indie. A lot of times, even today, Microsoft has a really good program with that, where they provide dev kits for free. And sometimes I mean, in the industries, you get jumped to the front of the line for certain things, for just knowing who you know and things of that nature. And it's just the nature of the beast for the games industry. But we actually ran into that too. Like with PlayStation, we had to wait extra long to get our hands on dev kits because PlayStation would only lend them out. They didn't give them to you. You either had to buy them or you had to rent, like basically borrow them and send them back. And because so many people were making games at the time, we had to be on this waiting list for a real long time. So that's one of the reasons why the Sony one took so long. Because, we didn't have, a price of a Honda Civic in order to, get dev kits for about 5 months.
Mm-hmm. Does the PS? I know there's a PS5 version and Xbox Series versions.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have like any like improvements over like say the Switch? Like have like a 120 FPS modes or anything like that?
I think they're all locked at 60 frames per second, just for consistency, no matter where you are, even on the Switch. Right. But it does technically run in 4K, but it doesn't really matter because the game forces you to see it the same way, no matter what. I don't think maybe load. I mean, the only other thing I can think of is load times, which are pretty much almost instant already anyway.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if Mikhail's still in there. He might be able to share a funny story with you. I think there might have been, I don't know if he did it or if maybe it was on the first game that we ran into this problem. He can probably tell you the story better. But we ran into a spot where sometimes it was problematic on some of the hardware that it just loaded too fast, and we had to like make built-in wait times or something. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember at certain points some of the hardware was like really super fast.
Yeah, I mean I've heard that like weight meter, like loading meters and stuff like that are like largely faked anyway.
Yeah, they are to well, depends on which game it is, but yeah, a lot of them are to an extent. Like it depends on how you implement them as well, but there's some of them that have an animation that will run at its fastest speed no matter what. So even if the game's already preloaded, you're still going to see like a blurb of a something. There's a different game that wasn't ours that ran into a similar situation where they had planned for players to see tooltips on loading screens, and then people were having a problem learning how to play the game because they never saw the tooltips because it would just skip over.
Yeah.
That wasn't ours. That was somebody else's. But
well, that was. I feel like that was
a good.
I feel like that might have been the PS5 version of Ease 8, where you can have the tooltips, but it just like happens so quickly. It's like why even? So there's an option to turn off the tooltips entirely.
I am definitely increasingly undead looking.
You're like try to read it in a quarter of a second.
I'm definitely looking pretty undead at this point, but not that it matters because it's not like I'm actually going to get to the end of the game on the stream anyway.
Oh no, yeah, I would be thoroughly impressed if you did that. So I mean,
first time
yeah, I mean the first time playthrough for an average person is taking about eight hours or so if they don't use the help. You can do the game in about 3 or 4 hours the first time through if you use the invincibility help. And this is based on you and I and folks who grew up with these, right? A lot of people who didn't grow up with these games but like this aesthetic, and they're playing it maybe for the first time and haven't played Super Ghouls and Ghosts and haven't played Castlevania, and not like really, or recently anyway. It might take them, we've been finding like, between 10, 12, upwards of 15 hours of playing the game to get to the ending. Yeah, and then discovering that you didn't get a really good ending and maybe wanting to go back and play through again to see something better.
Yeah, I always find that if you ever look on the website How Long to Beat, like I do not trust it at all for retro or retro style games because some people might they might only be counting like, well, what does the especially if it's like a modern retro style game or something, like what does the game clock say or something, and the game clock might not be counting a bunch of certain things, or they might be only counting the time of one run through. They might have been using a guide, so the real question of like how long a retro style game takes is something that I feel isn't really honestly reported, unless it's something like this where you are able to track some data like that.
Yeah, Lunatics, who is one of the premier speedrunners of the first game, and he's working on the second game, but I believe he was able to beat the first game in under 15 minutes, just shy of 15 minutes, the entirety of the whole thing as a speedrunner. And that's one of the goals that we set up with making these two games, is that it is a game that you're supposed to be able to master and learn and do that with it if you want. My personal best time on the first game is like 40 minutes. And that's like repeatedly playing it and having made the game. So the thing that Lunatics is doing for being a sub 15 run on the first game is insane to me. I don't know what the fastest times are of this game yet. I don't know if anybody's starting to claim that just yet, because the game's only been out for a month and 2 days. But it's coming. It's not going to be as fast. It'll never be as fast as the first game because it's quite a bit bigger. But I expect to see probably some pretty impressive times. It took me about an hour. Excuse me. My fastest time in this game has been about an hour and 18 minutes of getting exceptionally good at it and knowing all the things, and that's my no-hit run. My no-hit run's about an hour and 18 minutes. Oh my gosh. But I can tell you right now, for some of these speedrunners, that's going to make that look like I was playing it like a toddler. And they're very, very impressive to watch.
And that's got to be like absolutely insane, because they're like doing stuff in the game that you never even imagined would it be possible. Right? I mean, I wonder if like,
they don't break it.
What developers think about seeing like speed runs happen, and they're doing stuff in this game that I've never even imagined could be done.
Yeah, but for this game, we went to great lengths to make sure that speedrunners couldn't do things like break our game, like go through collision and stuff like that.
But just like they are.
But the way they change techniques
in ways that we never even imagined.
Yeah, the way they change some of the techniques together, like the dodge, roll, cancel into a jump, spear, and then roll immediately and hit the ground and keep cancel. Like there's cancel. We built these cancels in to the game, and we knew that people were going to use them, but we didn't know to the extent of how they would use them. People. Like he just did that move when he rolled the skeleton and tried to hit him. But speedrunners are using that move in order to traverse the landscape faster.
Oh.
By doing these roll and cancel, and then spear throwing at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's so interesting, to hear what a developer would think about that, like having. I don't know. Like I just, if you ever played Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, you know, it's like this extremely difficult.
Write that down.
Difficult. I mean, I guess calling it a game is I don't know. It may be more of a game than any game, or like not a game at all. It's very hard to explain. But you know, the controls are so weird that, and it's all physics based, and it just like it's difficult to play. But then somebody figured out like, these different moves, and there was like a whole thing happening with people figuring out how to traverse this game like really quick, and somebody was eventually able to beat it in something like 35 seconds or something stupid.
Yeah. So we had a really funny thing in the first. I won't spoil it.
They never.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's all right. I'm done.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but one of the things that we did for speedrunners is in the first game is that we built in this. We had a really. We knew there's a level that we had with the Sky Knights that we knew was going to slow people down because of the nature of the way that the design worked. So we had these like Medusa head guys, so these like bird guys that are green with these giant shields, and you could throw spears into the shields. But we decided to, at one very specific spot, spawn one guy, and you had one opportunity to do this. And if you didn't do it just right, you couldn't do it. And we spawned him going the opposite direction of the map. And he was positioned in such a way that if you noticed this one guy that did that, you threw a spear into that, you could jump up and ride that spear all the way to the end of the map and just bypass the whole damn thing. Now, and we built that in. And what was really funny to me is it took a couple months, and then the speedrunners found this and goes, "Hey, your game is broken. We figured out this thing. We hacked your game." And I was like, "Nope, dude, we put that there for you." Yeah. It's like, I mean, so we have those things, and it's really funny to see how that comes up.
I hear my kid saying that. They hacked the game by doing something.
Or we found a bug or whatever. It's like, nope, that's not a bug. We put that there for you.
They didn't even know what hacking actually is. You're just doing something you think you shouldn't be doing.
So Legend Odinson says he loves the similarities to the nods to Rastan. We have a lot of nods to Rastan and Magic Sword and a lot of other things.
Whole
but
stance, the way he holds his sword and shield is like straight from Magic Sword.
Yep. And there's a direct homage in the very first game, like the way that the game starts, where you fall down and land on the ground, and then the way that the tiles look. And the first tile that you down stab in the original Volgarr game, that's all 1-to-1 tile from Rastan. It's a complete recreation of how Rastan starts. If you go down into the cave in the original game, there's bats. In our game, there's bees. And instead of the floating axe there, we got a treasure chest that's below. But right after that point, you'll see Rastan's skeleton slumped in the corner, just like, and that's where the homage ends, and the game is all different from that point. But we wanted to give a little nod to Rastan there. But
yeah, Rastan.
A lot of people didn't.
Very good game.
I love that game. It's one of my favorite games ever. I have the arcade machine for that. For that.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's got one of the best soundtracks.
Times, but, I mean, I had it on my Sega Master System.
Also, one of the most exceptional versions of that game, even though it doesn't look like the arcade game, it is super, super fun.
Oh yeah, it is a very good game.
As a matter of fact, hold on one second.
What's that?
Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh yep. Yep, mine's
my copy of Rastan came with a inside it. When I got it at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo in I think 2019, and
for the Master System.
Yeah. And it came inside. It was a schedule or for a like school picnic in like 1991 or 1992 or something like that.
That's cool.
I love it.
My copy of Rastan like looks like it may have like been dropped in a mud puddle or something.
Well, you still got the tab on your box, so that's kind of a good sign.
It's filthy though. I mean, I should probably.
Okay, I definitely remember this helmet from my friend's streams back in the day.
Mine's sadly missing the manual though. I don't know whatever happened to that car. It got lost in one of my epic
actually
moves.
Even has this, and I don't know. Like I don't understand why.
You just have the advertisement in it.
It looks like crap like this, and then it's like, oh, but actually we have like this big poster in here and this big like coming soon list.
Yep.
I don't know why that is totally fine, but then the game itself looks like it was it could use a shower. And the manual's in great shape too. But I don't know.
I'm worried that once I cross that threshold, this guy's going to be doing another phase. Because I feel like I had that. Oh yeah.
Oh, boss fight.
Yeah, I felt like I had that first phase down, and then he changed it. I knew once I passed that threshold, it was probably going to be changing it up. This is kind of do or die with learning to use the shield.
Yep. So this gives you a peek into your future. So basically, Volgarr, your first boss fight here is kind of a hint to what happens to you if you fail at this game. You become undead. You become Volgarr, basically.
Is the final boss like this, the reverse of this?
No, it's different. So yeah, but that was kind of the gist of it. It's kind of like giving a little bit of foreshadowing of what could happen to you, Volgarr. But no, the final boss. I don't want to spoil that, but the final boss is a surprise. Okay. I mean, you can look it up on YouTube and go watch people do it now, but I don't suggest you do that if you care about it.
Also, nobody, if you have the means, nobody should look up the different Astrobots that are in Astrobot.
No, there are some crazy, unexpected surprises for sure.
Yeah. It's very fun.
That's what I've heard. So I'm every time I see and it sucks because I want to see people talk about Astrobot and be excited about it. But every time I see Astrobot pop up, I just wipe it out because I don't want to see any of that yet. Because I'm not going to get a chance to play through it until Tuesday. So I'm trying not to ruin it for myself.
Yeah.
My son's already like halfway through it, but.
Well, he probably doesn't know who most of the characters are.
I feel very satisfied.
That is probably true.
I feel very satisfied that that there's as much effort as it took to beat the level, I beat the boss on my first try.
Yeah, that's very good.
I did have a lot of armor built up though.
Chris, I wanted to mention because I was looking through your. Before the stream, I was looking through your Moby Games listing, and you've like worked on like a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yeah,
I really wanted to call out and mention that you were apparently like lead designer on the extremely underappreciated 3DS version of Shinobi.
Yep, that was all me, and my business partner who started Crazy Viking Studios. That was us on Shinobi. Yep.
It's a really good game and heavily underappreciated. I think it's this awesome mix of like Shinobi, Revenge of Shinobi and Shinobi 3, but like with some more like more of a melee focus.
Yep, that was one of actually I'm still really proud of that, and we laugh because it's like I guess that's what it feels like when you make a game that's kind of ahead of its time. Like. It's one of those things now that people are really going back and thankfully looking back on it now and going, wow, that was a cool game. Yeah. But when it came out, people were a little bit like, what the heck is this? Like, it's not, I don't know how to describe it. It was people, a lot of the reviews are like, it's good, but this isn't like Icarus or the big shiny Nintendo thing that we were hoping for or whatever. But But now people are looking back on it, and it's becoming a weird thing because that particular game is getting harder to find. And then people are going, "Oh, this game's really great. You should get it." It's like, "Oh my god," but it's expensive now.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was super cheap for a long time.
Yep,
I day one it because I as a massive Sega fan, I will give any Shinobi game the benefit of the doubt like right away.
And one of the things I was really happy and proud of that was that Sega trusted me enough to come up with a completely new character for it. So I was able to, participate and be a part of the grand Shinobi legacy. That's Joe Musashi's dad. That was and he time travels. And they thought that was really funny. We were seeing how ridiculous we could be with it. Could we do a time traveling ninja that does this and ends up in the future and all the stuff happens? And Sega was like, yeah. And we're like, okay, cool. We'll do that. Well,
I mean, it's a cool mixture of like Shinobi 3, but also with the scarf from the PS2 game reboot.
Yeah, and we want to tie everything together. And one of the things that makes Jiro unique from every other hero that is in the Shinobi franchise, he fights with a reverse grip, and he is more melee centric. He holds his sword, runs like this. He holds it with the hilt out, and it runs parallel to his arm. And all of his strikes are of that nature. And he has a completely different fighting style from everybody else. And of course, the parry system. So I hope that on that new Shinobi game that leaks, that maybe some of that stuff carries forward, because it looks really cool.
Oh, the Lizard Cube one. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great matchup. It's funny because when I first saw screenshots of Streets of Rage 4, I was not that excited about it. I was like, I don't know if this style fits for this game. But playing it, it was a lot better than I ever thought it was going to be. But I feel like Shinobi is a great fit.
I do too. I think their aesthetic that they, if anybody's from that company in here watching, this is not a knock to you guys because your stuff is awesome. But I think their aesthetic that they generally like and gravitate towards works better in that platform space than it does kind of the beat 'em up space. But it's still good. I have the collector's edition of Streets of Rage 4. It's wonderful. But I'm happy that they're the ones doing it. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, and they did a great job with the Wonder Boy 3 remake.
I like that quite a bit too.
But that was definitely a situation where I saw that Streets of Rage 4 in screenshots, and I was like, I don't really like how this looks. But then playing it works so much better in motion. And
you were mentioning earlier that you were kind of put off by things that were tagged as or mentioned as being a Metroidvania game.
Yeah.
For me, as a person that plays video games, whenever I see something that might have looked like it might have been made in Flash or it might have been made in that kind of a thing, it's immediately off-putting to me. I almost didn't play the new Battletoads for a long time too because of that, and I regret it now because I liked it. But it's the same thing. I have this knee-jerk reaction to that. But maybe it's unfair, but I don't know. It's just there was so much of it that was made poorly that looked like that for so long. Like you're saying in the screenshots, you're maybe like, but when you see it in motion and stuff, it's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
So I passed the threshold where I guess I'm locked into the bad end now.
You are undead Volgarr now, and so you will, if you progress through the game, get the worst ending because you use more than 6 continues.
Well, but I chose to keep it on the standard difficulty because that's
okay. You didn't turn the assistance on. Okay, cool. So some people, it's optional now. That's one of the big things that came with the big upgrade is that it's not forced on you now. Now, the original intent is I thought that hardcore gamers, when they got to this point and didn't like that and didn't want it, were just going to start over. Because this is what I call a soft game over. Rather than have it go game over, and then just blank out and start over, right? I was going to let you keep playing, but you can optionally keep the invincibility on and learn the game, or you can choose to start over.
No, I really like that. I like that
choice. Well, they didn't want that choice to start over or keep. They wanted to be able to do what you're doing now, which I didn't anticipate. And things happen in game development, and when you try something new, like this is really new. I can't think of another game that does this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm sure maybe there is, but I haven't seen it. And so I thought it was an interesting new take on how to incorporate an easy mode. And so I didn't anticipate people to reject that idea. And but this is a cool way to fix it, so everybody's happy now. So I'm happy, they're happy, everybody's happy.
Yeah,
and that's great. So yeah, if I make another game up like this, I'll probably do a very similar thing and keep this mechanic, because it's a great way to allow people who may not ordinarily like challenging games like this to kind of get into it, because maybe they like the theme. You know, I just want to be a big muscle-bound barbarian dude chopping heads or something like that. You know, maybe they don't really care about the difficulty.
So as someone who, you know, like loves super ghouls and ghosts, ghouls, the first ghouls and I mean the second ghouls and ghosts is one of my favorites of all time on the Genesis version specifically. What did you think about Resurrection, the one that was on modern consoles that came out a couple of years back?
Oh no, I just got called out. All right, so my gamer cred's gonna go right down the toilet right now. So I bought that game the day it came out because I was super excited about it, and I have yet to play more than 5 minutes. It's just one of those. I've got games on my shelf that I buy and collect, just like everybody else. That's kind of like me, where they're still in the cellophane.
I would love to have that one physically. I don't think it did well enough for them to justify it. But.
Well, I don't think that's putting your gamer cred down at all, because like in general, I don't think Coury is a big fan of it.
But you did support it though. That's good.
Yeah, I bought it because I liked it. But I mean, obviously the original one. But I have no idea, to answer your question, if it was if I personally think it was a good game or not.
Like a lot of people
I don't know. I didn't play enough of it to say one way or the other.
A lot of people didn't like it, but Coury, I know Corey's a big fan. I have not played it.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it
myself,
I feel like
because
underappreciated. Again.
I was always foolishly waiting for a physical copy. That's probably never going to happen. I mean, Capcom has been
pretty hard.
Capcom has been great and also really bad with physical copies lately.
Yeah.
You know, they have things like, you know, the PS5 version and Xbox Series version of like Monster Hunter Rise, Resident Evil 5, 2, and 3 remakes. Like they just, for some reason, they don't have physical copies. I think there's a few. That new Kunitsugami, which I tried the demo and it's really fun. No physical copy of that. But then they do things like, well, you didn't used to have physicals of the Ace Attorney games in America for a long time there, and now they're doing awesome with that with the recent collections, aside from the first one that they didn't do in America. But yeah, I don't know. I should probably just get that game digitally and assume a physical will never happen.
I mean, if it makes you happy, you could always burn the executable to a disc and slap on a sticker like we used to do in the old days and put it in a box and pretend you got one.
Or Coury likes doing that with
yeah.
You
like some of the Ease games.
Yeah,
before they had like US releases. I got the Japanese PC versions that came in these really nice boxes, and then I bought the games on GOG and just like put the assets and executable installer and stuff like on a little flash drive, and then put it in the case with the Japanese disc.
Yep, that's the cool way to. Hey, but you can get Volgarr the Viking 2 on physical with your Rocket Games. Don't miss out. But I mean, Capcom. I don't know why Capcom doesn't do that. I mean, probably because the profit margins aren't as high, and maybe people aren't just loud enough about it, or whatever. But there's all kinds of different reasons.
All the Ace Attorney stuff, like, or at least, like it feels like the least sought after ones that they're doing.
Yeah.
In the U.S. I don't know. Like they didn't release the U.S. in the U.S. They didn't release a physical of the like the original trilogy or whatever. But they'll do like the investigation stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then they didn't do 5 and 6 even on 3DS, a system where you would think physical. I mean, that's how you even make 3DS work. I wouldn't think 3D. I feel like a digital game of that scope that would require that much effort with translation and stuff. Oops.
Yeah.
That was the wrong way to do
But you know what? Like, if it's something you don't think is going to come out on digital, like, or come out on physical, like, just what I've been doing is just like buying it digitally, and then if it does happen to come out on physical, I'll just get that too. And I just like leave that sealed a lot of times.
I mean, it sometimes I do get
like I might do it with that Backaroo game because I don't even know if that's gonna happen. That's gonna. I did it with Natsuman. So I feel like Spike Chunsoft like hasn't been doing like physical of certain things.
Video Game Obsession asks, is it best to play the first Volgarr before the second one? You don't have to. You're not going to ruin yourself for any story or anything like that. By the way, if you want to learn more about Volgarr the Viking and the story, if you care about that kind of thing, you can get there's an audio book and there's things you can read about the
audio book?
Yeah, I wrote a book. I wrote a couple of them. They're all being kind of processed right now, but there's it's just an AI read thing, but it's I wrote it out and I made an audio version for people who don't like to read because it's long. And so it tells about the story of his origins, his friends and stuff like that. And there's also the second one coming out, which leads up to this game. And then there's the conclusion of it, which talks about things leading into the future. But to answer your question, narratively playing the games, you're not going to spoil anything for yourself. There's differences between the two for sure. And it really depends on what you're looking for. The second game does have more to it. There's more gear you can get. You could take more hits. There's more modern comforts in the second game, but it is also bigger and longer. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there. So, but if you do play the first game before you play the second game, you'll be warmed up, so to speak, you know. But you don't have to. You just can jump into whatever one you really want, and you're gonna get a cool experience. They both still hold up. Well, the first one really holds up well today too. It's like any of the old games that you would have played, like Super Ghouls and Ghosts. You pop that cartridge into your Super Nintendo, it's just as fun today as it was back then. Volgar's 11 years old now. It's still great. That's one of the reasons why I like to make games like this, because to me they're timeless. I'm not being compared to 2012's version of Call of Duty versus 2024's version of Call of Duty. They look, you put them next to each other, one of them looks hideous. You know, this because of the nature of the way these games are made and played, they're pretty timeless games.
Yep, and that just like a lot of times that just comes down to like design choices, you know, or just like, you know, it has a cohesive look. It has like a lot of time and a lot of time behind it, I guess. Yeah, that would be interesting, like a PS1 version. That just makes it so much, because there's no real easy way to play homebrew on a PS1 unless your system is chipped or you have an ODE on there. But
I remember the X Station.
I mean, a PS1 version could be an interesting approach. Or I guess if this one won't run on the Dreamcast, it probably won't.
The second game will not run on Dreamcast. I mean, I don't want to say it's impossible. I'm sure there's ways that we could.
But you got better things.
But we'd be making some pretty big concessions to make it work on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
You'd probably be missing some stuff.
Yeah.
The first one did. The first one was on Dreamcast. I think they were asking if someone ported the first one.
I'm curious if I am approaching these crabs in the expected manner, where I'm absolutely terrified of hitting them.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't think I actually killed one after it like got up and it's like, oh, that is actually a big buff old crab. Definitely.
We had an internal tester that made a little bit of a high-pitched squeal the first time they saw that one. Because it's like, oh, this cute little crab, I'll just chop it, and then it just flips over and turns into this big, terrifying monster. It's like, oh my god! That enemy's, I always like that enemy because it's a really simple enemy. You whack it once, it flips over and turns into that other crab thing, but the way that it makes a little bit of a pause before it runs at you makes you throw your timing of your sword off. So it's like you hit it, you panic and swing too early, and then before you can bring your sword back up, it runs back into you. So if you're not really paying attention, that's how that one gets you.
Now,
I can't believe you also put in like the Sonic countdown. That's not just like to add another layer of stress.
Yep. And normally what would happen in this, if you were actual in zombie mode, is you wouldn't drown. Zombies don't breathe. So you wouldn't have to be dealing with this right now, except for you opted out of it.
Interesting.
And, but yeah, there's a really cool animation that happens.
If that one-up Valkyrie would come back, but she didn't.
Oh no, that's true. That's based on true score. So you get them at X thousand points, and then every 10,000 after, or something like that. So
I thought it was a location thing.
Nope, it's point based, treasure based. And she visually, you can see how many lives she got left because they surround her too, as well as in the HUD. See, there's one of those little daggers there.
That's all these like interesting little visual cues that you could probably only learn what they mean just like over repeated play without being told directly.
Yep. I purposely, we try to make all of our games out. The first game didn't even have a HUD, but we added so much new gear that I figured this time around we should probably do that. And because, you know,
nice little Big Trouble in Little China. That's
one of my favorite movies. My son's named Jack Burton.
Really?
Yeah, not kidding.
Nice.
It is a fantastic movie. I watched it with my son recently. He's 9, and he didn't react to it the way that I was hoping he would have.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. I mean, I have the Jack Burton sideshow over here statue, and my wife, when she found out that I kind of tricked her into getting his name to be Jack Burton, because we were trying to figure out his name at the time, and she's like, well, all of our kids have your last name, so why don't we do their first and middle names off my grandparents? I'm like, what is it? She goes, oh, Grandpa Jack and Grandpa Burton. I'm like, so you want to name my kid Jack Burton? She says, yes. I said, all right, I'm down for it. And she was just like, why did you agree to that so fast? Like, why did you agree to that so fast? And then, like, obviously, after he's born, we signed the papers and everything. And then I told her, and then she was like, are you kidding me? Like, people are going to be saying his name, Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, his whole life. I'm like, are you?
Oh, I don't think.
Like, first of all, yeah, I was like, that movie's 30-something years old. No one, I mean, even then when it came out, it wasn't like a box office hit. Like, don't worry, it's a cult hit. No one's really going to know unless he tells people.
And all the people that like knew if it was from that would think it was awesome.
Right. If they recognized it, they would think it would be rad. Cool. And especially rad because Jack Burton's like a bumbling idiot in that movie. So it's like, it's really freaking awesome. He's not even a hero. His sidekick is the hero now. It's like the whole point of the movie. It's really funny.
That's great. Man, I saw that. I went to see that new Alien movie, Alien Romulus. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I
kept calling that. No, I just totally brain farted, but I kept calling it the Ratatouille, Alien Ratatouille. Because I couldn't remember Romulus for some reason.
You hadn't even seen the previous one, had you, Corey?
I didn't see Covenant, no. But I have a dad friend, who is big into the Alien movie, and I was like, Alien movies. And I was like, if you want to go see it, I'll go see it with you. Because they didn't have anybody to go see it with. And,
I finally followed up on what that dagger
going to movies alone
was about.
But yeah, it was. I thought it was very good. I felt like it was probably like the best one besides the first two. I probably put it in the number 3 spot. Although I've not seen Covenant, so I can't comment on that.
I actually like that one. I didn't think it was too bad.
I thought it was better than whatever the one before it was called.
Prometheus?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I need to rewatch Prometheus. I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater, but I don't know. I just think in retrospect, and the fact that you know, it's an alien movie in that series, but it didn't like put it in the title. You know, it's kind of a cool thing, and I feel like the ideas in it probably might be more interesting
I thought it was
now.
Pretty good too. The Prometheus, anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
like as a standalone, like a kind of like a alien guided movie or something. It was it had a cool story. My biggest problem with Prometheus, I mean, it was a gorgeous movie. My biggest problem with it is like watching human beings make irrational decisions that you think no human would probably do.
Taking off the masks.
That was the biggest part with me. It's like, why would you do that? Like that doesn't make any sense like at all.
Yeah, there's lots of stupid decisions, and I've heard that Covenant is very similar. It's just like people like saying, "Oh, like why would you ever do that?" To like supposedly like these brilliant scientists, right?
Yeah,
they're just making stupid decisions left and right.
That was the big problem with it. It was like Joe Average in these situations where you know they might make dumb decisions because you know you're not trained or anything like that, but these are like supposed to be super smart people that make irrational decisions, and that's like okay, that's like watching Albert Einstein pull on a push door when it's got the big sign in front of him, you know, and he can't get into the room. It doesn't make any sense.
I love the retaliation, like when you have like the Thor's hammer, it like makes it so that it also does a super attack, which is nice to, you know, if you're in a high pressure spot, it gives you some breathing room.
They're very useful in boss fights if you can hold on to them long enough.
Oh yeah. So sometimes stuff that's like really good on like regular enemies is like not very impressive on bosses, but not so here, I guess. Oh, that big crab is still down here. Great.
Enemies do not disappear when they go off screen, I guess.
Yeah, there's no.
No, they don't.
No screen
unless
scrolling
they fall into
tricks.
the pit and die.
It's just
Yeah, we don't have that whole NES unload it and it disappears and comes back thing. Yeah, we don't do that.
I wouldn't be able to beat Turtles 1 if it wasn't for that. That's my whole strategy is just make the enemies despawn themselves.
Yeah, cheating the tokenization. All right, if you'll have to excuse me one moment here, gentlemen, I need to make a pit stop. I maxed out my bladder.
Yeah, you're good.
No worries.
I'll be right back.
Atari Fuzz, I thought that Furiosa was great. It was perhaps a bit too long. But, you know, I mentioned before that, I think I said on stream before, I just think that it's,
Oops.
it was great to watch it once, but I don't have that desire to watch it again, like I did with Fury Road.
Wah.
I'm drinking from my water barrel.
Oh,
This thing right here, filled with bourbon.
oh crap. Oh crap.
I'm gonna drink 64 ounces of bourbon on stream tonight. Let me tell you, so my wife was like had to go to Chicago for like several days, and it was like the longest amount of time I've ever had with it was just me and the kids. Usually it's like one night, but it was from Tuesday to Saturday.
Wow.
And we held it together pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep, we survived.
Eat a lot of quesadillas.
No.
That's
we didn't
like when I was
nuggets,
growing up,
chicken nuggets.
that was like the trademark dad's the one home making dinner tonight food.
Yeah. Although after my wife got back, I did find some like microwave burritos in there frozen burritos that I kind of wish that I knew were there.
Oh, you got me.
Would you like to know what
All right.
the vocabulary word for today is? I've been doing this app on my smart telephone called Elevate, which is kind of like brain training. You do it for like 5 minutes every day, or 5 to 10 minutes.
Do you feel like it's working?
I've only done it for a week, but I mean, maybe a little bit. But my favorite thing about it is that it gives me a new vocabulary word every day.
Nice.
And I was going to see if I could see what my previous vocabulary words were and tell you what my word for today was. If I can find it in the settings here. You can have it give you 1 to 3 words of the day.
You can only handle one, though.
I had it at 3, and I was like, this will happen a little too often. So I'm okay with just doing 1.
Well,
like maybe 2 was probably the smarter choice, but I was okay with I'm managing with 1.
So what is it? Did you tell us yet? Or you didn't tell us.
Hang on, I'm looking for it. I need to find it. Oh, here we go. So today's word of the day is seditious, which is tending to cause or provoke public disorder.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yesterday's was vehement.
I've never been totally confident.
Oh,
in pronouncing
vehement.
that.
Sorry, that's what it sounds like.
Vehement.
You hear that?
Yep.
Vehement. So I always thought it was vehement, but I guess it's vehement. You want to know what the word of the day was on Wednesday?
Last Wednesday.
Yes, this past
Yep.
Wednesday. The word of the day was bespoke.
Oh,
Man.
It's a
I
good
get an
one.
eye twitch every time I hear that now. And now it's like that and demure.
Oh yeah, that's the one that's like been making the rounds lately. But bespoke, see if we can hear it say bespoke.
Bestowed.
Which is made for a particular customer or user.
I mean, I feel like people who watch Digital Foundry, like the percentage of Americans who watch Digital Foundry and know what the word bespoke means is
Because
significantly
of that, it's
higher
probably
than
very high.
than the Americans who don't watch Digital Foundry and knows
Yes.
what bespoke is.
Yeah. I mean, it's like part of their brand so much they even put it on a shirt.
Yeah, I want one of those shirts. Actually.
I kind of want one too.
Bespoke Stanley Cup with demure styling.
Says
47 different colors. Collect them all.
I don't know. I just think it's fun, just like having them show up on my phone. It's like, oh, here's my word of the day. Try to fit them in something.
We used to bespoke the neighborhood kids by throwing a stick in their BMX bike, their wheel.
Some of us could probably.
We're putting a card on the back. That's bespoking too. Made it sound like a motorcycle.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Remember that?
You could tell me that's the true word for that, and I would believe you.
Yeah.
Of having
Bespoking.
a card.
Bespoking the BMX.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
And it's just the it's got to be like an ace of spades card.
And now I just suddenly had the prom scene from Rad pop into my head.
Man,
And none of you watching right now probably know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what Rad is, and I can't wait to tell my friend if he's not watching tonight. My friend who both loves Volgarr the Viking and Big Trouble in Little China and Rad.
Yeah.
That the developer of Volgarr the Viking loves all of these things in a surprising way.
I mean, Drumpo should play this on your guys.
Yeah, that's right, Squirrel Dick. That's right. Good job. It's a very, very famous song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure he'll play this on Backloggery stream eventually.
Yeah. I mean, we even talked about like maybe having him
Right,
play it
right.
tonight. That was something that
Probably would have been too many people though.
yeah.
No, I'm actually glad to finally get a little experience in it since I hadn't gotten around to playing through the first one yet myself. So
We should put that on your list.
my list for next year, yeah.
Because I don't know, like I'm just thinking about. So Chris, every year we do a year.
Well, every year starting 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do it like a year-end video, which is not like our. I mean, it's kind of like a game of the year type thing, but it's more like here's just like this variety of games that both of us played this year.
Because we're hardly playing the latest and greatest most of the time.
Yeah, but it's like it's
I
like
can relate to that.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. Like I think that people like it's. In some ways, I think that it's a portion of our audience. It's like their favorite video that we do, and we always release it on New Year's Eve.
I mean, okay.
But we try to like the last 2 years we've made a list of 10 games of here's 10 games that we want to play next year, and we just like have
knock
a whole
them off our
variety.
backlog.
Yeah, we want to play through these games this year, like in the coming year, I guess.
Okay.
And last year didn't go too bad. This year I think is going atrociously for both of us.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I've only finished one game on my 10-game list.
I mean, we're gonna have carryover games from 2023 and 2024 in 2025. So I was kind of thinking of this recently, like maybe next year we should do 5 games for adding to the list.
Sure, I'm okay with that.
Until we like get rid of the backlog, and then we can do 10 games again.
Yeah, and some of them are short. I mean, it's just like a bunch of games, like just like random games that you just for some reason hadn't played yet.
I actually almost beat Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu on Monday.
Oh, that was on your list?
That's on my list.
PC Engine version, right?
Yeah. We finished Ninja 5.0 pretty quickly on the stream Monday. We were concerned that it was going to actually take 2 more weeks to finish Ninja 5.0.
Oh, really? But it's not very difficult.
Oh, it's very difficult. It's quite hard. It's
Ninja
short.
5.0 the handheld game?
Yeah, Ninja 5.0 is a GBA game. It's very expensive, but Limited Run actually.
I remember that now.
Yeah, Limited Run's actually putting out a new version, but we don't have it yet, but we're playing it through means anyway. I pre-ordered the Limited Run version though, so now I'll be able to mark it beat when I add it to my backloggery when that arrives. But anyway, yeah, it's short, but it's very challenging, but good.
I think that was one of the games we were looking at back in the day when we were investigating Shinobi for the 3DS. We were trying to see if what other games that were Ninja games had come out for various handheld devices or around the same time period. I mean, that game was like 2 years beforehand or something.
Probably.
No, Ninja 5.0? No,
Ninja
that
5.0.
I feel like Ninja 5.0 came out in like 2002 or something like that.
Well, I don't know what year it came out. It's a Konami game.
Yeah. But, I mean, Shinobi has like the grappling hook, right? They have a grappling hook.
Yep.
And so does Ninja 5.0.
It's a
grappling
central
hook, right?
mechanic. I mean, the way that it controls is very unique, but it's very good. It's got a very sort of you have to be very intentional with. I mean, much like Volgarr, you have to be very intentional with your moves. And yeah, it was really hard, but we thought it was one of those things where like we looked it up and there's 6 levels, but like the 5th and the 6th was kind of rolled together. Like the 6th wasn't really a full level. Yeah, that kind of thing. So it didn't actually take us that long.
Yeah, it's 2003.
So anyway, that's why I had time to work on PC Engine version of Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, which is on my pledge list. And I got I played that on our stream several years ago, and I got to the last world. And I got further this time, but still ran out of continues. But that was a very good game. But
we got Dad1153 with $2. Thank you. Asking the hard questions. What is everyone's favorite Viking movie / TV show or TV show?
Ooh, I'll go last.
I took a quick little took the opportunity before like I read that to like just look to Google Viking movies, and I can honestly say that all of these listed I've seen. I think the only one I've seen is the 13th Warrior.
Whoa there.
Antonio Banderas movie, which, I don't remember anything about it, but I do remember a scene early on that I thought was really cool at the time where he learns the language. Like he can't understand everything, and slowly what the movie does is like has the Vikings start speaking in English.
Yep.
It's just like a really cool way to do that.
I mean, you see stuff like that done in games a lot now, I feel.
Right, but I mean, in a movie when did that come out? In 1999, I thought that was like a cool way to
a wildly overlooked movie too at the time it came out. It's another one of those movies that people didn't really grok it until like much later, which is really surprising.
Yeah, it's it's interesting to think about. Like, I feel like, I love Vikings, I love Norse mythology, but boy, I cannot think of a lot of Viking movies I've seen.
The most recent one it's listing here is The Northman, which I've heard is really good.
It is.
That's
one of my favorite ones.
Like he's doing that other movie, right? The person who made that is doing another movie.
I think so.
I can't think of what it is. But everyone was excited.
The director, right? Or are you talking about Skarsgård?
Yeah. The director.
Yeah. I like that movie so much that I actually took part of that movie and put it in this Volgarr the Viking 2. Whenever you transition to a new level, it does the black splash screen with Elder Futhark and tells you the new chapter of the new level, basically. So in the Northman, it does the same thing. It goes boom. It just shows the runes and what the chapter of the movie is, or the act. That it's like 1-to-1, just put right into Volgarr 2. It's like Ships on Fire and Elder Futhark, or the Forest of the Elves, or whatever.
It's when you respawn at one of the optional checkpoints, it kind of makes this sound. It sounds like the beat of the sound effect sounds very much like the Terminator. Dum 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 dum.
That's exactly what that is. So that's the time sphere, right?
Yeah.
It's the time sphere. It rips open, and then he drops down in a kneeling position like Schwarzenegger. Yep. He drops out, and it plays the time. Yeah, you got it, man. You got it. That's an Easter egg, and no one else has said that. Like, no one's caught it yet, and you're the first.
Nice.
That's right from Terminator.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's not really so much like a jingle as it's just it feels just like I mean, I guess it's like sound effects almost, I guess.
Yeah, it's the drum. It is the beat. It's bum 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 bum, and he drops down. Yeah,
that's cool.
There's a lot of little Easter eggs and things that I loved as a kid growing up in these games. A lot of the achievement stuff too.
Things to do, right? And like making games to be able to put in little bits, and the people that know will know, and they will appreciate it,
And the people that
Yeah,
don't
especially
know,
people who like these games. Because if you like these kinds of games, then you're probably going to be into the same things that I'm into.
Yeah.
And so, like in the first game, one of the achievements was if you threw a powered up spear and you took out more than 3 enemies with 1 spear, it was called "Let Off Some Steam, Bennett."
What did I play recently that had something
I'm so dead.
as a reference to that
wait,
too?
I can go here. I can go. No.
From Commando?
Or stick around. There was one that was like stick around.
Oh, that's
that might have been in Zone of the Enders 2, where you gotta like early on you like throw like a girder against a enemy robot and it like sticks them to the wall.
Yeah, I have the powers in this one.
I'll stick around.
Yeah, stick in the Zone of the Enders.
Yeah, Zone of the Enders 2. Which is like a game that I hadn't played since it first came out, but we recently did a video on like multi-game.
That wasn't also a Kojima game, was it?
He just like
He
I think
produced it.
Yeah, produced it. Yeah, I mean clearly they are trying to emulate his style throughout because most of the game is like complete nonsense. I mean,
yeah.
the stuff that they say in it is just like, okay, I don't even know what they're trying to tell me.
It's so deep. It's so deep you don't get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or they're just like just literally just making it up as they go. Because why not, right? Nobody's gonna know the difference. They're making it up as they go and pretending like they had it all like planned out. Oh, there's a stick around achievement in Callisto Protocol, which I recently just got for $7 at a pawn shop, and it was like new and sealed. I got like 3 games, sealed games from this pawn shop, PS5 games that were like $7.
Yeah, it's crazy when that happens, when you see that in pawn shops right now, like the PS5 stuff, and it's like
yeah, it's weird.
And it's dirt cheap because the pawn shop owners have no freaking clue what that stuff is worth.
Yeah, but
well, I mean, Callisto Protocol's not
pricing a
not
PlayStation
worth
1
much,
for a 3DS, original model 3DS for $130. So I don't know if that's like what that is at this point either. So,
yeah.
It might be because they had Shinobi like on the SD card.
Maybe. Or that super rare one from Target that had the pen included with it or whatever. It's like there's some really bizarro one that's like worth a buku bucks because it had some kind of little Target only pack in or something. It's really weird. I had no idea that even happened until I actually wandered into one day, like 9 months after the game had come out, and saw it there, and I was like, "That's real weird." They didn't say anything about that, and it's like, okay.
Like so, the 3 games that I got for $7 each, and I've not tried them or anything. I think that you have this one. I think you have what is it, Scarlet Nexus?
Oh yeah.
That's $7.
I haven't played through it, but it seems interesting.
I got Deathloop.
Oh yeah, I have that too. I mean, all of those games are games that I got for like really cheap at Best Buy at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But,
Atari Fuzzar's boots just so heavy he can't walk on the bottom, or is it Viking magic? Obviously better than swimming. Well, Vikings are made out of tank. Like that's just a fact.
They're made out of tank?
If you take a DNA sample, it just says tank.
Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? It's just like...
So they sink. I mean, can you imagine...
It looks very tank-esque.
Yeah, I mean, early on, we tried having him like swim or something, but can you imagine having this like gameplay where all of a sudden he's just like doing a Mario thing, he's like supposed to be...
He's like, whoop, whoop.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just kind of
cartoony.
Kind of takes away from his, his manliness.
He's holding all his gear. Like that gear is like definitely keeping him at the bottom of the
and that massive beard.
Yeah,
the beard's man.
I mean, I've always been a big fan of like Mega Man style, like jumping really high in the water and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more fun that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we our water we of course we got water levels in both of these games, which everybody's favorite is water levels. But at least we didn't do ice levels. But one of the things we wanted to do is like even in the water level, we didn't want to change the mechanics. We didn't really want to change the way that you experienced the game and played the game. It's literally the same. We just added a small little twist. Maybe you're gonna run out of some air, or maybe your jumps are just a little bit weirder. But that's it. It really doesn't really do all that much. It makes a little bit some of your timing be a little weirder. Like the guys with the rapiers, they can still come at you pretty fast, but your ability to move out of the way or attack them is a little delayed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like a massive change or anything like that with the way that we've done it.
And you know, that's exactly how it would have been for Arthur also.
Right, because you don't want to suddenly introduce a brand new game mechanic you didn't teach. And that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves on in the two Volgarr games is that it's something that really annoys the heck out of me about modern gaming is that I'll buy a game and I'm playing the tutorial for 4 hours. I hate that. And so with these games, we have you in a room. In the very first game, we didn't even have a pause menu or anything. It was just like the game booted up and Odin was there pointing to the right. It's just like, I guess that's where I'm going. And then, you just pick up the controller, press the 2 buttons, good. By the time you get out of the first room, you've learned everything you need to learn before you even play. And now it's up to you to use those tools to be successful at the game. This game does it as well. We added a little bit more of some like explanatory text, but we didn't have to. We just did. But it's the same thing. You just got the small little room. You've learned all the skills that you need to beat the game right there before you encounter your first enemy. Now it's really up to you to use those tools and discover the ways to use them in order to complete the game. This game doesn't require a manual or anything like that, but you can learn everything through experimentation like you did in the old days. But I think Rocket's going to actually make a manual that comes along with the physical copy, which is really cool. Yeah.
So Rocket, I'm not. For a minute, I should look up their site here. Rocket games, like they're newer, right?
They're fairly new, and primarily, from what I understand, working with Atari at the moment. But,
nice.
But yeah, they're fairly new. I think one of the founders was one of the original founders of Limited Run.
Oh, okay.
From what I understand, I could be wrong about that. I'm not an expert in how all that works right now. I just make video games.
Oh, and one of these has a soundtrack with it too.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and a cloth map.
Ooh.
Oh, even better.
If you want to learn about the world of Volgarr the Viking and everywhere you go, and that's in there. So that has locations from the first game, the second game, and surprises for things that aren't even out yet.
So I saw like a lot of writing credits and stuff on your Moby games also. So I mean, obviously, like that's like kind of a passion as well. It's just like coming up with like writing about it too.
Yeah, I specialize in like doing action games. I mean, I love RPGs. I haven't made one yet. I want to. Well, that's not true. I worked on some Diablo-esque type games, more action RPGs, but I haven't done like a true RPG yet. I like action games a lot, fighting games, things of that nature, arcade games. I love designing characters and coming up with lore and stories and stuff like that. I do also want to point out that Moby Games has only got like, I don't know, maybe a third of the things that I've worked on it, and some of those might be incorrect that are on Moby, but that's how that goes with that stuff.
You worked on a couple of the Herbs games, it looks like, and Neopets.
Neopets. Let me see if I can. That might have. Jeez, that was a long time ago. What was...
It's just. I just found out that like I actually like, Dry and I have like listings on Moby Games also. I had no idea.
Really?
Yes, I found that out like today.
Wow. Okay.
Believe it or not.
I think on the Herbs, the things I did on the Herbs might have been
It has you listed as just like additional art or something like that.
Yeah, I did some processing. So a lot of times when you work at a place like Kryptonite, you have like maybe like 10 projects going on at once.
Right.
And if your project wraps up, whatever game that you were actually working on in core, you'd have like maybe 3 months of downtime before the next thing starts for you and your team. So to keep everybody busy, they break you up and spread you out across other projects to give them helping hands in the meantime. Or you take vacation time and stuff like that too. So herbs on that project, I would do things like process, like it'd be outfits or things of that nature. Like if there's a shirt that they made, I would reprocess all the animations for that shirt in red, blue, green, orange, and whatever. You do a lot of paper dolling and cleanup and things of that back then. Anyway, I think that's probably early GBA days, if I remember right.
Yeah, so the name Kryptonite, like Kryptonite was one of the, I guess like the Foundation 9, right? Like the Digital Eclipse, like Other Ocean, stuff like that.
Yep.
All under Other Ocean, right? Or as it was?
No, under Foundation 9 Entertainment. Yeah, Foundation 9 was the umbrella that incorporated everything.
When we visited Digital Eclipse Studio back in 2018, and like we had planned on doing like this, like it was like kind of a drop of the hat thing. We were actually going there to talk to Mike Micah and Frank Cifaldi about the developer M2, the Japanese developer. And when we were there, they were working on SNK, the SNK collection.
SNK 40th, yep.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to like film some stuff here?" And we like ended up shooting all this stuff, but it was just like we were there when we were asked to do this, so there's like zero prep or anything like that. So we shot like a whole bunch of material, like interviewed a whole bunch of people, but like we have never ended up doing anything with it. So I gave
good
them
B-roll. I mean, we've used it.
We've
used some of that stuff for Analog Frontiers as well.
That's true, but I gave them all the footage so they can do with it whatever that if they can find a use for it. But one of the things that I wanted to like talk to a lot of those people about is just like kind of clearing up, the whole history of Digital Eclipse and Foundation 9 and all these like other companies, like because it gets like during the like PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, and an early HD generation, there's like a lot of releases coming out from like all those companies.
Yeah, so that was like the heyday of licensed properties, movie tie-ins, and things like that.
And just like emulation collections and stuff like that too, or like
on the Digital Eclipse side, that was like pretty much what they did. Yeah,
right. Like they were just, I talked about it like, and we did a video on the Xbox 360 store closing, and they like during that time period, they were just kind of like learning what works well on these platforms, what looks good, what's a good way to handle these classic graphics, like pixel art.
Right. It was a new problem to solve at the time, really. I mean, even emulation had mostly been done on CRTs up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's really weird that there's always this battle in that time period, because I've worked on a couple of those back then. Was there whenever you put like a sprite game like Volgarr, like you're just earlier talking about putting in the point and the bilinear sharp and stuff like that. Back then, whenever you tried to make the game look as true as possible without the scan lines, a lot of publishers and executives and people who didn't really, they're running a business, right? So they don't necessarily always know what's great about video games because they're just trying to, make the business function. So you get like a lot of pressure, or comments like, the natural state of this game is ugly. You can't have this on an HD TV and see pixels. That's ridiculous. Who would ever want to look at this? Like, and you're like, well, me, because that's the way the game looks. That's the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in pixels.
But they all like force like those like filters,
the smoothing filters on it. That looks like they rub Vaseline.
I'll never. I mean, you've seen what Grandia HD looks like, right? Like where it's like one of the blurriest HD remasters.
Like, well, the backgrounds are fine, but the characters are all like using like the HQL or whatever.
But anyway, like you know, the story when John and Adi were at E3, and like they're like, "Oh, can you make this optional?" And they're just like so confused. They're like, "But then it wouldn't be HD." Like the blur is HD to them. It's like, I mean, the thing is, like,
and that's what happens when artists don't actually touch it. That's really what's happening. Is that there's not an artist there actually touching it, because I can tell you from experience that any artist on the project that was working on these things does not want that to happen. Period. You're actually actively going up to the Mona Lisa and throwing paint all over it, like, and then going, "It's better now," and then you're like, "No, you ruined that painting."
It's not.
Like, if you really want to make it good, like, figure out, because these are fixed resolutions, figure out how to make it work, you know, on your TV in the right ratio, and then come up with some shader for scan lines, or, you know, HSL, DL, or whatever those things that have in MAME and all that other stuff now that make those things look so good.
I mean, I've seen retro collections, or not, it wasn't a retro collection. What was it? It was, I can't remember the name of the game. It's a pretty cool game though. It's got like all of these various options, but none of them quite go all the way in terms of like scan lines and stuff. It's just that there's one option. It's just like a blurry bilinear filter, X-axis and Y-axis. And it's like, makes it look like old TV. And it's like, no, like bilinear filtering is good when combined with scan lines and mask effects and stuff like that. But if you only do the filter, that's only like going halfway. But then like what you have here, the sharp bilinear filter, that's like the safest middle ground where you don't get the shimmer because of uneven pixels. But you also, you know, scan lines can introduce their own problems with scaling as well and stuff like that. But yeah, like sharp bilinear is like the safest way to present a pixel art game, in my opinion.
Hey, 196 Cupcake, can this be played on a 3x4 CRT? Yes, it can. If you get the PC version, you can actually build your own arcade machine with this game and run it just the old school way. Which, by the way, does look very nice. I've done it. It's right behind. I've got an arcade machine with it running behind this wall of crap over here, and it's pretty rad. If you do that, it's super cool.
Is that like a modern like Windows-based arcade machine?
Of course, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But I don't know if there's like anything like particular about what defines an arcade machine other than just like, this is my computer I play games on.
Well, yeah, I mean, you run it at the proper resolution, and you get it hooked up to an actual CRT monitor, and you use actual arcade controls, and then, you know, you pretty much just got an arcade machine. Because arcade machine doesn't care if you're using a JAMA board or a CPS2 board or a Windows machine or whatever. Some late arcade machines did use Windows CE and garbage like that, but sadly.
Did you know, like you've got the Dreamcast version. Like I don't know if there's like anything involved with like making anything. I have no idea. Like if you could then just like, could you get that easily running on like a Naomi board, or I don't know anything about
the
like
Dreamcast one.
Yeah,
it's the same. Yeah, you could technically. I mean, with
I don't know if it's like easy
work
to like put like your own get your own ROM running on Naomi or something like that.
Yeah, I mean technically you could.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that big of a leap.
Yeah.
So if you're able to find the hardware on eBay, like they have the GD-ROM stuff that occasionally pops up, yeah. I mean, I don't see why you couldn't. There'd be some trickery, I think, with the PC side of the dev kit things that you would need to figure out or re-emulate or redo or rewrite in some way. But I mean, smarter people than me have done it, so yeah, I don't think that'd be too big of a leap. If you really wanted to, I mean, nothing stopped. I mean, you could probably do it. I mean, if you're programming things, nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
It's just the amount of time investment you want to put into it, really, and how determined you are. Oh, you made it to the second part of the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even realize.
I've got quite a bit of armor and stuff, so I've been getting a bit deeper.
Oh, that's one of the
here.
things the patch did too. The big upgrade made it to where if you get to a runestone checkpoint, it remembers the gear you had when you died, so you don't start totally naked.
Oh,
that's cool.
That's really nice.
That's huge.
That's
really.
actually, what you were saying, like, if people would have motivation to just start over, or if they would want to just continue on, like that would be the kind of thing that would give you the motivation. Like, hey, if I start over, I could like be in a better situation, So
If you use it continue, you start at the crystal and you do end up being naked because you haven't collected any chests yet in that stage. So if you use it continue, you would lose all your stuff. But if you just die and start at a runestone, it'll remember what you had at that point. Like I think you're coming up on one here fairly soon. There's one right there, but now you're gonna have nothing.
Yeah.
Now you're naked at the runestone, so when you die, you'll be naked again.
But I mean, that's pretty cool. I hadn't realized.
Yeah,
that.
it's something you would not expect. I think. It's typically you just like start over from scratch.
Yeah.
But that's a nice benefit, and if you can get really good, then it is possible in some way to maintain having like being fully powered, I guess, throughout the game. But it's
Look at that! Try got some air before he went in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because I'm not watching it with sound, but I immediately hear bump 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 bump.
It does that.
Every
well,
time
it doesn't do the music change, but it does the pressure of the. There's a really cool sound when you start drowning. I actually did a special animation for when you drown too, which is always.
I'm not sure if I've seen it.
I like that that's become like a thing where the like the skulls are coming out of the bottomless pits.
Yes.
Like the flaming heads, so that like, okay, so you don't want to drop down here because everyone's played an old game that you drop down a pit and it takes you someplace else, right?
Right.
It takes you to a new area, but it's like trained us to.
Well, I mean, the first game, the game I always think of is, I can't remember if this was in the Genesis or even the Master System versions. But I always think of like Monster World.
Yeah.
Wonder Boy and Monster World.
Yeah, I know the remakes do the skull thing. I can't remember if the original versions did though. Oh, well, there's your drown animation. Wow, you drown and then explode into blood. I finally like a big part. Like, I'm always very timid about using shields in games in general. Shields and parries and stuff like that. Like it. When I learn to do, like, sometimes I'll play a game and I learn to do it really well. Like, I think the Mercury Steam Metroid games are a good example of this, where, like, you really need to use the, you really need to learn to use the parry in those games. And I think it feels really satisfying. But other games where it's like, a little more optional, I guess. I have a tendency to, just kind of not really learn to use it as well as maybe I should. And
well, you can't beat Shinobi unless you learn how to parry. I can tell you that. In the first game, oh no, did you drown again?
I was so close. I was so close to. Oops, that was stupid. I was so close to air.
Oh man, I just saw that. Yeah, wow, brutal. Inches. The first Volgarr game, you're talking about the shield and everything. You start with a wooden shield in that one, and that one can only block twice before it shatters, and then you're exposed. In this game, we give you a pretty big upgrade at the start because the metal shield is something you have to earn in the first game, and this one we start you with it, so you can block as much as you want.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that just happens automatically,
it's a pretty big upgrade.
If you're not attacking.
Anytime that the shield looks like it should block, it blocks. So you don't have to hold a block button down. If you have a shield on your back while you're climbing up the rope and an arrow shoots at your back, it'll block it.
Yeah, but like these like fencer enemies, they like I was doing really terribly on them until I just got the confidence to just let them attack me, and then it went much better. Oh, blocked an attack with a shield while on a rope. That's funny.
But that's cool if that stuff just happens, like, there you go, block me, Amadeus.
I like all my old guy achievement names. It's pretty great.
Yeah. If people, if they know, they know.
If they know, they know. Yep, exactly.
I mean, from the, what do you think, like, the general, like, age range for, like, speedrunners and stuff? Like, I don't really even know what. I mean,
yeah,
a
like lot of them are pretty young.
What's that?
I think a lot are pretty young. There's like people that just are into this style,
I've seen
style of game.
For Volgarr, I mean, I don't know in general, but for Volgarr, I've seen them in their 20s. Some of them from the first game that are now doing it in the second game are in their 30s and 40s because some of them were college students and stuff when the first game came out.
Right.
I got a letter talking about ages. I got a letter from a boy who was 9 years old. I have a picture of him at the very first PAX when the game first came out. It was he had just turned 9 or was just getting ready to turn 9. Real little lad, and he was so big into the game, and he just sent me an email. I don't know, like a week or two before the game came out, where he was super stoked, and he said, "I'm gonna play this all the time while I'm in college," and he's like, I was like, oh man, I was just like trying to wrap my head around that gap of a little boy, and now this guy was like he's a full-grown man. And like it wasn't just going into college; he was finishing college.
Wow,
like, that was and so that was mind-boggling to me to have someone say that.
Volgarr was someone's childhood already.
Yeah. Right.
That's nuts.
And I was already getting that with other things that I had worked on, but it was especially weird for me for this particular franchise. Like I would get people to come up to me and talk about Spyro or occasionally Shinobi and stuff like that. Like all those years ago, it's like, oh man, that was my favorite game when I was a kid. And I'm talking to somebody with a beard, and so it's like it's a little surreal because you get these little micro. I don't want to call them microaggressions, but there's like these little micro reminders about how truly old I've become, and or how long I've been making games. I mean, I don't know whether or not people would consider me old or not. I guess that's relative. 80-year-old person probably call me a whippersnapper, but it's just it's a weird feeling. But it's also really cool that people remember and they care, and that's always really fascinating to me. Especially hate mail. Someone is affected by your game so much that they get so mad and they take time out of their day to write you something really nasty. And it's like, well, I mean, on one hand, it's like, cool, you felt something. I mean,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Art makes you feel things.
The worst thing to me is have somebody go, like it's like, it's like lukewarm bathwater. That's your game. It's not good or bad. It's kind of like whatever, forgettable. And then you're like, oh man, that's the worst. You just say, my heart. Rather you hate it than ignore it. That's for sure.
I see like Sammy SNES, Sammy Super Nintendo, NES. Said Volgarr 1 is the closest I've ever been to picking up speed running. I
Cool.
really had a nice route. However you plan to say it.
Oh, I just saw here, even though this is like a flat shaded wall, it was just a little different color. It kind of made me think of the hidden passages in the US version of Final Fantasy IV, where it's just slightly different colored enough that you can kind of make it out.
Do you want to know why that happens? It's exactly the same color, but do you want to know why you're able to see that?
Is it because you said this is really a 3D engine? Is it lit differently?
No, but you're close. So what happens is because what you're looking at is part of the sprite-based system versus the background tiled-based system of the way that the game makes art, combined with the brightness of whatever is the screen that you're looking at. So if your monitor is set, or I don't know what device you're playing on right now, but whatever the screen is that you're playing on right now, if it's set just a smidge too high, it'll start to separate the colors where you can tell the difference between the two.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm on OLED TV here.
Yeah, so that would be why, because those are so crisp and so bright and so clear that sometimes in these things you can recognize things that most other televisions and stuff would not.
Interesting.
But it's very subtle. At least the last couple times I've run into it, it's been pretty subtle. Now you do run into the occasional problem where sometimes one of those sprites might have been. I think we corrected most of these, but early in development, you'd run into a situation where it would be placed, but it'd be 1 pixel off. So sometimes you might see a seam, and but that's only a 1 pixel seam, but you wouldn't maybe notice it right away unless you're kind of staring at it.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be another way that kind of gives it away. I think I got rid of all of those though. I come from a school.
Those shields that are on the continue screen, is that like they fill up with blue, no matter based on how many times you can continue before you become zombie?
No, but that's a wonderful idea. I'll do that next time.
I did think when I first saw those, I thought they were signifying something, but yeah,
How many shields are there?
I think there might be 7, so it probably might be off. But if you count if you count like starting the game as 1, that would work. Maybe.
Yeah.
So there's just 1 blue one at the start, and every time.
Yeah, and have them turn red or something as you continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Do you ever think when you're thinking like how to represent like your lives and stuff? Like, do you ever, like, when I always call it the 0th life. You know what I mean? Where it's where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to continue after I run out of this life, or, like like the first time growing up, the first time I encountered it was like Mario 1. After 1 life, you're
it says 0.
After 1 life, it's game over. There's no 0. But then Mario 3, it goes to the 0th life. So it's always like, am I on the last one, or am I on, or do I have none left?
Yeah.
You want to know what's really funny about that in game development? That question is always presented, or let me rephrase that. There is a behind the scenes argument that happens on every game that gets developed, and it happens without a doubt every single time. And it comes down to what you just said, Try, is that how that is presented to the player tells you who won the argument in the development team. Okay, and let me tell you how that works. It's an argument between a creative person and an engineer. You follow what I'm saying? An engineer will tell you that 0 is 0, it's nothing. Whereas a creative person would be like, well, no, I used up 1, I should have 1 more try. 0 should be my last life.
Right.
Yeah. It's like tries.
Yeah, there's 7 on the boat.
Versus like
shields.
I don't know.
So when you see 3 tries, you're really getting 4.
when you're at 0.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you know what's funny is that like I don't think like there's ever become like a best practice or like it's just unlike so many other things in gaming, like that's never really become standardized. Although I mean, life counts in general have, you know, gone out of style. Although in some ways they're back, depending on the genre.
Oh no! The argument happens in every modern game.
Catalog.
It happens in every modern game.
Wait, what's that?
Like I said, it happens in every modern game. It's just not happening with lives. It's literally how many bullets do I have left in my gun? How many, like, you know, all of that stuff. The argument happens. I'm not kidding you. It happens every single time in every game with somebody. Like, and the result that you see at the end of the day is who won that argument. Who was the most convincing? It's how that unfolds. It's like my 9mm in Call of Duty holds 9 rounds, but you're conveying it to the player in numbers. It's like it's confusing. Like, how many left do I actually get? And it's kind of like a really bizarro thing. Yeah, it's really wild. Like I need to go back and look because I recognize that some of the earlier games, the Medal of Honor games and stuff like that, might have actually gave you 10 bullets in a 9-round magazine or something to that effect. You have to like really pay attention. Most people don't, so you just pull the trigger really fast.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, then there's the rare game. Like I've not. I've only played like an hour of it so far, but it's really awesome. Half-Life Alyx, and that's like one of the rare games where you like you because it's VR. You know, they want you to like eject the clip. You know, to have the more steps to your reloading process. And it took me a while to realize that when I'm ejecting the clip, I am forfeiting all ammunition that was in the gun.
Oh,
you know, so that, like, I mean,
it's more realistic.
It's more realistic.
So you actually like have to think about
right. So like,
you can't just reload every time that there's no enemies attacking you.
Right. So like, because when I start paying attention to my numbers, I'm like, wait, my ammo feels like it's going down faster than it should, right? Although I can't remember. I mean, it was earlier this year when I was playing when I was at John's house, and
it's interesting. Like it's. I understand why games that are non-VR, like Call of Duty and like literally every other shooter, like first-person shooter or third-person shooter, like would not do that.
I don't even know if that's standard in VR. I kind of doubt it is.
Probably not. But I mean, I have to admit that makes it sound a lot more appealing to me.
It's interesting. Like you have to think. I can't remember if Zombie U might be that way as well. I forget.
What is
that?
That
sounds like something that game might have done.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I feel like it might have done that. I really like that game.
Foreign user says this game is too frustrating for me. I left this era behind.
I live this era. I'm okay with trying again.
Yeah, I see. Personally, like I would have probably bumped it down the easy.
You would have accepted the easy buff.
Yeah, I mean that's just.
And I'm stubborn. I'm not the best at games like this, but I know that I can do it eventually.
Yeah, and it depends on how, like, I mean, I don't know. It depends on a lot of situations. But this is also probably something that I would finish it that way, and then I would start it over again. And
yeah, there's no shame in that. I mean, that's the whole reason why I was there, is to help people learn the game and get exposed to it and get it down, and then go back and feel like a badass.
And in most cases, you know, like not having that, unless you're a specific kind of person, and not having that would be like, all right, I'm not gonna do this. People, a lot of people would say, I'm just not gonna do it. You know?
Yeah, the attention span's not really there these days for learning stuff.
I would definitely be interested in, seeing what the differences are with the easy mode. But I feel like for my own purposes, I want to kind of experience the level design as intended.
Yeah.
But there's certainly no shame in it.
No. I mean, there was a point, I think, that, like I'll always start games on normal. And if I'm feeling like very compelled, then I will continue like that, despite, difficulties. But there's other times where I'm just like, you know what? Like, I just want to, I want to see what happens. Sometimes just playing a game where it's like, I want to feel like this character, like, probably is, like RoboCop, like, I don't know, I died a few times, like, I have no problem, like, bumping it down to easy, because, like, I just want to feel like RoboCop.
Yeah, kind of like how RoboCop looked in the movie, like an invincible, criminal slaughtering machine.
Yeah. And, like, I don't feel as though I missed out on anything from RoboCop Rogue City, like playing it on a lower difficulty level. It doesn't bother me at all.
Okay,
It was
definitely
a very fun, like 14, 15 hours.
Oh, well, that's probably what I'm doing.
There was $10 from Matt Gurley. Thank you. Saying, hey, I hope everyone's weekend was nice. Thanks, MLiG, for the quality content over the years. That's it. That's the comment.
Well,
That's it. Thank you. Appreciate
that. Brandon Smith, I have the problem of wanting to play so many games that I don't feel like putting a lot of time into every game that I play to learn all the mechanics. Yeah, that's why this particular title will always be a niche title, because it's not for everybody, and it probably won't ever be.
And it harkens back to a time where, when people would get one game every 6 months.
Yep, exactly. But I mean, at the same time, I feel the same way Brandon does. Like a lot of them with modern games too. If they can't capture me right away, then I don't typically tend to finish them. Like earlier in the stream, I don't know if you were here, Brandon, but when I play games where I'm stuck in playing something where it's a 4-hour tutorial, I don't play it. I hate that. I can't stand that. I don't like games treating me like I'm stupid. Like, I don't like getting an achievement for pressing the jump button and stuff like that. If I see stuff like that, I stop. I immediately stop. I'm like, okay, that's how this is going to be. So, I kind of, I'm in your camp, but in a different kind of camp in a relationship to different kinds of games. I think everybody should try easy mode if there's an easy mode available. I just do.
But sometimes, if you're enjoying it so much, and you're like, if you like a game and you're like, I don't want to try the easy mode. I like this so much that I want to keep on, trying to make it. With what I have.
That's how I feel with games like this. Like even though I'm doing the same parts of the same levels again and again, like I get a satisfaction out of that very slow learning of it.
But to be fair, it's easier to do something like to play in that style when you're on a stream. If you're just like at home and you're doing,
I do agree.
Like, you feel like less compelled, I think.
I do agree. Like I mean, most of my time spent on, retro style games, like I tend to save them for streams even, because it's like, well, this is the kind of game where, even though in a lot of ways I feel like you play worse on a stream, I do feel that, the fact that there's an audience there to like, and also the fact that it's like, I don't want to say I'm like stuck here for X number of hours, but like, like the fact that I know like this time is spoken for and this is all I'm going to be doing, like it gives me, it does give me extra compulsion. It streaming is very good for, you know, motivating me to get through difficult games.
On one hand, it's motivating for you, but on the other hand, it's making you play a lot worse because you're having to entertain and talk and not giving the game the full attention.
He's I think he's pretty good at that. Like he's.
Wow.
I always envy people that could do that
on here all the time is because it just makes it easier. At least two of us, like on a stream, it just makes it easier to keep an eye on the chat. And
right.
But you have a lot more experience than I do of just streaming in general. Because, you know, you were doing it like 4 or 5 years before like we even started doing this.
Many.
I found a lot of people found it funny too with these streams because people get so not try is doing amazing, but sometimes people get really mad and throw their controllers or you know, things like that. People are there for the rage content, you know.
No, we are never. I mean, there's times where we get like maybe get a little angry, but it's more like you know.
You were getting kind of annoyed at Shatterhand the other week.
Yeah, but I mean, that I feel as though that was a just sometimes you just have one of those days, right?
Yeah, it was the wrong game on the wrong day for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try it on my own.
Games like this, you have to really make sure that your moment to moment what you're doing, like the control of Volgarr, what he's doing has to be really tight. The combat has to feel really good. All your little interactions have to feel really good. Otherwise, that when you do die and have to do these things repeatedly over and over again, you don't have fun. Like the core of what you're doing has to feel really good, or else it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, this has a very precise, methodical feel to it. Like, and
it's got that one more try bit to it, you know.
Yeah,
and that's what I really like in sort of this style of game, where you're kind of rewarded for you know, taking your time. You know, like don't just like rush into the situation. Like that's one of the things I love about Legendary Axe, especially is it's got that that meter that kind of like encourages you to like bide your time.
Yeah.
Because you do significantly more damage if you wait for the meter to fill.
Well, I think that's, you know, that's the situation these days where it's easier to rush into it because I think that people have been conditioned by a lot of probably modern games to just like, you know, you're going to rush in here and you're going to be okay even if you take some hits.
Right. Oh.
But, you know, and sometimes it's hard to get into that mindset with classic games where you just,
especially if you don't play them a lot. Like if you're all you're exposed to is the way that the new way that things are done. It's pretty rough for people sometimes.
Oops.
I would hope that while you're playing this, try that whenever you're getting killed, because it's one of the things that we really try to take great care with, is that you're never really feeling cheated by the game. That when you die, you feel like it was a mistake that you had made.
Yeah, I'm making a lot of mistakes, but I absolutely feel that way. Like I know what to do at that part there where I gotta jump over those spikes, but it's just it's in the execution.
Okay.
Now the next part I don't think is where I've gotten past it. I'm not quite sure yet because it feels like there's a pretty long time where I don't know where I'm going to be getting any air from, but I don't think I've gotten far enough to find out.
Yeah, that area, the section that you're in right now is it's fairly tight. You have to get a move on.
Yeah, there's a place where there's a weapon upgrade, and I don't know if I'm right or not, but it kind of feels like a trap.
No, you can get it, but you have to be very quick.
Yeah, because I don't think there's air.
You have to get air before you start that section.
Yeah.
There's $5 from foreign user. Thank you. Saying just wanted to contribute to something I enjoy. I love the channel. Thanks, guys. a lot of respect for the commitment to design in Volgarr.
Well, I appreciate that. Wait,
And that's, I think, that's like a big
Is that-
thing. That's a big thing
is
to
that a
say. It's
person's
like,
name?
you know, to acknowledge, like, you know, this is not for me, but I still think that, you know, like they did what they said that they were going to do. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that not enough people give some developers for, like, or give credit to some developers for. I mean, you know, everybody made fun of like Balan Wonderworld, but you know what? They decided, you know, Yuji Naka said, "I'm going to make a game that uses one button."
I
And,
respect
like,
the heck
they
out
made
of
a game that
out
uses
of-
one
out
button.
of that core idea.
What's that?
I respect the heck out of that
Yeah,
core idea.
exactly.
Like I mean,
Just
like
saying,
I
I'm gonna
said,
give
like
myself that limitation.
I love that this is fundamentally a 2-button game. I love
Yeah.
that. And I don't have a problem with the one. I mean, I hate Kirby's Air Ride, but it's not because it's a 1-button game. You know?
Yeah, our philosophy in design with this was we started with a 1-button game, and then we really thought about, well, why do we need to add a second button? Like, what does it give us?
Right.
So we thought about like every input, everything like that. We would spend a lot of meticulous time thinking about that. Like, okay, well, he needs to jump and he needs to attack. Can we do that with 1 button? Can it be contextual or whatever? And they're like, well, we don't want that because then it's not, it's not rhythmic. It's not rhythmic.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing it yourself. The game's deciding. So yeah, we need to break up these 2 major actions into attack and jump that the player controls. Now we have 2 buttons. They're like, well, we want to throw a spear. Okay, well, let's add a 3rd button for spear throwing. Like, well, no, hold on. There's other ways that we can do that. That's how you do the, the Castlevania style thing, and the same with rolling and all that other stuff. Is like that can be done with the 2 buttons and other inputs without adding a 3rd button. So I always appreciate in design when I see other games do stuff like that. Not you don't see it frequently, but you will see other games do that where you pick up your Xbox controller and you realize that it doesn't use every button on there. Because one of the traps that designers have in modern game development, and many that I've worked with that are even new to the industry, is that they'll pick up a PlayStation controller and go, ooh, I want to do every little thing with this PlayStation controller in my game. And then you have to look at them and go, why? Why do that?
Yep.
Like Astrobot's great because it does that, but that's a showcase game for Sony that shows off that thing on purpose. If you're making like a fighting game or something like that, coming up with artificial reasons to use things on your controller for no reason is never going to really end well for you.
I agree 100%. I mean, that's one of the reasons. Oh, here I am going for this. Oh, it's not even a sword; it's armor. I mean, oops. Oh wait. Oh, that's fine.
Well, that was like my big complaint against Axiom Verge. It
Yeah,
felt like every single button had to be like a different gun. And I was like, I don't really.
All right,
I just felt like there's too much going on. Too much control. Too many controls.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's
It's
kinda how I
like
felt
you know,
about-
and to the point where you can't even play it with a like Super Nintendo style controller because you have to have like the. I mean, I don't think you have to use like the right analog stick. Quick select, but there's so many things that the game wants you to do that it's kind of detrimental if you don't. I feel, and I mean, this is one of the reasons that, you know, for all the flack it gets, I freaking love Knack because I loved the idea that here's this launch game that's like supposed to be showcasing the power of, you know, this new console, and it doesn't even use the shoulder buttons. like the guts they had to make what was kind of considered their flagship first party game, to make that to make that not even use shoulder buttons. I mean, that took guts, and I respected that.
There's $5 from Matthew.
Thank you.
Thank you. Saying, hi, after some thinking, I love Hot Shots Golf 4 more than any other Hot Shots Golf game. It's the best for me because I still have 4-person multi-tap, you know? I think
Is it actually called Hot Shots 4?
I
Was
think
like that?
so.
Is,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
actually called, is it the 4th game? Because that would be rad.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Oh,
You know, for some reason, I have.
That one is like not, you don't find it very often, but that is
Is that PS2 or PS3?
PS2. It's PS2 because 1 and 2 were on PS1, and 3 is like the most one of the most common PS3 game or PS2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look this up because Matthew says it's his favorite game. So I want to take a look at this one then.
For some reason,
Hot
I only have really played the portable Hot Shots golf games. In fact, when I was at Retro World, I got Open T2, which I've never played before. But for the most part, I've only played like the first PSP and the Vita game. Like the first PSP Hot Shots game might be my favorite golf game. I really like it. But then like I've always played like, you know, like Mario Golf is kind of connected to it in a way since Camelot started Hot Shots. You know, I always like Mario Golf on N64 the best, which is like kind of most Hot Shots like.
So I see a Video Game Obsession is saying I have a promo set from when it was released. They have these neat little golf ball and tee sets to Babbage Managers, with a link to the page, which got me thinking. Recently, like there was a brief moment in time where I was an assistant manager at a Game Crazy store.
That's awesome. I was a manager at Babbage's, and I was a manager at Funkoland.
Oh,
I didn't know
When I
you
was
worked
younger.
at Game Crazy.
it was just for like a couple of months.
Where's Game Crazy? Or where was Game Crazy? It probably doesn't exist anymore. Does
I don't
it?
know if it was like it was like part of like Hollywood Video. Was Hollywood Video a thing other places?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to live in Maryland. It was Hollywood Video was a thing.
Yeah.
It was like the Blockbuster competitor at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. But I got this really nice like PS2 messenger bag, and I was looking through it the other day, and I realized that I'd forgotten that this was even in this, and I have a PlayStation 2 pen. Can't really see it.
That's cool.
And it's got like 4 different colors. It has red and black both on it. I don't know if it works. Probably all dried because it's from 2003 probably. I worked there when Jack 2 came out.
Okay.
Jack and Daxter?
Yeah, the second one, Jack 2. I don't think I got very many shirts at the time. But I mean, it was just for like a minute. It was before right before I moved to New York. But yeah, just one of those things, right? Like,
I had this thing going at Funkoland when I was the manager there, where it was just at that time period where they stopped taking Nintendo NES games and Master System games and things like that, Atari games and things. And I couldn't handle the little kids coming in being super excited to try to get like I think at the time it was like Star Fox or something like that, some N64 title. And it was always like super hard on me because I had to tell them from a company standpoint, you know, we don't take these on trade. And like just watching these kids break and not being able to trade it in to get the game that they've been wanting like really bad, you know?
oh yeah,
So I kept doing this thing. And I got in trouble with the district manager several times. So I told him I wasn't going to stop. That if they kept coming in to trade those things, I always kept cash in my pocket. And I just said, look here, I'm going to give you like whatever it was, if it's like a big collection or whatever of Atari games and stuff at the time. Like, okay, here's $100 or here's $200. I'll take it off. You can go get the thing you wanted, the game that you wanted. But I was always doing that in an unofficial capacity because the company wouldn't take them. They had nothing. They couldn't do anything with it.
yeah. But they're not seeing it firsthand, you know.
Yeah, and I wasn't. Yeah, they weren't seeing the kids deal with that. And I was like, dude, this sucks. So I would do that. But then I was also finding out that I was, you know, cutting into my salary by like 30% by doing that all the time. Like I was getting to the point where I was like, I'm having to eat a lot of boxed mac and cheese and stuff to like keep like making sure these kids could buy games.
Yeah.
after a while, it was just too much for me. I just couldn't deal with the brutality of the reality of having to turn little kids away who are super excited for game trade-ins and not be able to get another game. I always thought that was kind of BSy. It's like those companies certainly could have done something at the time with NES games and Master System games and Atari games. Like they just weren't forward thinking.
I remember buying NES. I mean, at least buying. I don't know about trade-ins, but I bought NES games at Funkoland into the 2000s.
Yeah, it wasn't everywhere. Well, they weren't taking in trade, so probably what you were buying was just like a bunch of stock that they had before they stopped.
Because I mean, like Funkoland, like man, it was, you know, I'm always glad that I had the revelation of like, hey, wait, old games are still good too. Like, I feel earlier than most people did.
Yeah,
and so you know, I started getting back into NES in like the late 90s, and I lived in Delaware at the time. And you know, I just loved that you could just like almost any NES or Super Nintendo game that like popped in your head, like they probably had it. Like better chance that they did than didn't generally. But I want to say I remember the last, I think the last NES game I ever bought at Funkoland was in North Carolina, and I was getting a new copy of Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance on the GBA. I got Kickle Cubicle for NES and Dragon Warrior 7 for PS1 all at the same time. So yeah, I don't know why I remember that so specifically, but yeah, I mean that would have been like 2003 probably.
Yeah,
2002, 2003 right. For Harmony of Dissonance. So yeah, I mean they had it. They had NES games.
I need to. I still want to get a copy of Harmony of Dissonance. Like I had it back when it came out, but like that's one of the most expensive ones now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I feel like out of all the Game Boy Advance Castlevania games, it's like the most boring.
I mean, Drum and I recently replayed that on the Backloggery stream.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, was it this year or was it last year? I can't remember. But anyway, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I always thought the kind of like overlapping castle mechanic was kind of interesting on it. Although I can see how it could, I could see the argument that it maybe adds a little unnecessary additional exploration or something.
Yeah, but they were trying to repeat the inverted castle.
Yes.
I mean, that's just... But Aria of Sorrow didn't do anything like that, did they? Did it?
No, Aria of Sorrow is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they learned their lesson at that point. And I still gotta beat Bloodstained.
I really like it. I think it's underappreciated.
Yeah. I think they're still coming out with add-ons for it.
I think they officially finished. Because I can't remember. I remember there was some controversy. I don't remember the details, but some version of the game, like I want to say, like, I really cannot remember the details, but some version of
the game that never came out.
Well, I mean, some platform. I can't remember what the details were, but people in the chat probably know. Like, apparently the last content patch broke some stuff.
Really?
And
I didn't see anything about that.
And I don't remember if they said that they just were not going to be able to update it again, or if people were concerned, are they going to be able to update it and fix this?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. crap.
Hibhab69. Neither of us have tried the Tacky Udon Mister, the Mr. Pie. I'm not a big fan of the name Mr. Pie. I know that I think that first batch sold through like really quick. I might order one from the second batch whenever they go up for pre-order.
I mean, I have what I want in terms of Mister, so
I know, but I just think it's like interesting.
It is interesting. It is interesting, but like I guess my point is like I just haven't been paying that close attention because like I don't.
Yeah,
I don't need anything.
I'm similar in that. I think I get most of my information on what's been happening with it, like from our Discord.
Yeah.
Like the updates that several people give in our Discord about it.
I mean, there's a channel called Lou's Retro Source, and he does a great job of. I got to meet him at Retro World.
Yeah, he was there last year too, but I think that we didn't see him very much, or at least the last time I was there, he was there.
But yeah, I mean, he does just such a great job of just keeping up on anything and everything, Mister. I don't.
How many lives do you have left on this one?
I've got 2 left. I was hoping maybe I could make it to the the boss of this one, because I assume I'm on the second. I'm on the last phase of this of the water level.
Yeah, you're on the second half, but you're at the start of the second half.
Yeah. Let's just do these last 2 lives. I mean, it's after 11.
Well, let me do 1 fresh life after this one.
That's what I mean.
Oh, I mean one fresh continue. Here, I killed myself so I can have a fresh life.
Okay.
We'll give it one more try. Get past this one, because I feel like I've gotten pretty far into it. This is this is what we call appropriate given Volgar's state here. But this is one of the backloggery streams we call zombieing, where like what you need to do, but you just keep doing worse. You keep doing worse than you've done better, and you just can't achieve your best anymore.
Yeah,
that magic.
But there's also like a little bit of a fatigue that sets in a little bit.
Right,
too.
right.
Like,
So yeah,
you never really want to hear developers say that, but we're aware. You should probably sometimes take a break, stretch your legs, touch some grass, come back.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you all of a sudden have like a miracle after you like just go to the bathroom.
That's true too. You can rally.
Yeah,
you can rally.
All it takes is a good night's sleep.
Yep. Yeah. I could probably pick this up tomorrow and like get right back here in no time.
Yep.
But you definitely like peak after a certain point. It doesn't mean the determination isn't still there, but you're just not operating at peak performance anymore. I know what I need to do. I've got the level
Volgarr 2 have physical
mostly
release
figured out.
Yeah, it will through Rocket Games for a limited time. Rocket Games, I think it's rocket.com. rocketgames.com.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going pre-order right after the stream, because
it's too bad there's no way to like on the Switch to like put both games on one cartridge or something. But it's probably like a whole publisher thing. It's probably not easy to do.
Yeah, Digital Eclipse only has rights to distribution for the second game. I mean, we can talk about it at some point in the future if they want to do that. I mean, I'm open to it. But in order to do that, for me anyway, I'd like to make some changes to the first game, like I was saying, like do some background changes and stuff if it's going to be a re-release or do a physical or something. Yeah, basically.
You gotta keep those original assets optionally.
Yeah. Where you can toggle the crappy backgrounds on and off if you want, or whatever.
I'm pretty sure I have the PS4 physical version, but I'm pretty sure that I got it on Switch when it was on sale or something.
There's no. If you're talking about Volgarr, there's no physical version of Switch on Switch.
Right.
It's just digital.
Yeah, I just have the digital. But I was saying I have the physical PS4 version, but if I have something physically and I see it on sale on the Switch or something like that for $2 or $3, like,
I don't feel compelled to buy it for every console either. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but I mean, I will buy things digitally if it's like super cheap, even if I have it physically, just to.
Oh, that's what I meant. The physical version of it. Like if I have one physical version of it, I don't feel compelled to get the physical version on everything. I'll do like you said. I'll buy the digital and all the other things.
Yeah, and then even if it's something I already have, like I will. It's hard for me to turn down something for like a couple bucks.
Yeah, it's like why not?
Yeah.
Cheaper than a cheeseburger these days.
Yeah,
can you even buy a
of
Big Mac meal for the price of Volgarr 2? Like, I don't even know if you can.
Everyone talks about McDonald's like getting a lot more expensive, but they did that $5 meal, and it's like, oh, it's a $5 meal, but it's only for a limited time. But like everyone that I know, like that went to McDonald's, like was getting that $5 meal. Like that's your audience. That's your consumers. Like that's what they want.
Yeah, seems like you need to rethink your strategy there if that's
a lot
like
more
what's going on.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Recently because of that $5 meal.
And they're also very, very slow to change anything too. It's like a lot of the stuff that's on their menus, like pretty much been the same for like 40 years.
Yeah. Oh, I'd forgotten that new Beetlejuice came out this weekend.
My kids are super excited to watch some Purple Crayon movie.
Purple Crayon movie.
Yeah, it's a movie with I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the guy that played Shazam. And he's like in this new movie where he has a magic purple crayon that whatever he draws comes to life. It's like a kind of a crazy movie. Looks kind of funny. Zachary Levi, I think his name is.
Oh yeah. He was in that one show. Where he was like worked at a Best Buy or something like that. And then he became a secret agent.
Yeah. I heard about that show.
Called.
Never watched it though. Heard it's pretty good.
Oh crap!
I don't know.
But it had
crap!
That played was like the model for the one character in Mass Effect 2 was in that show. Like the character model for her. I don't know if she did the voices or not. Oh, what just happened there?
Wow, nice recovery, Trey. I mean, that's what he was yelling no crap about a minute ago, I guess.
So after you take a hit, you can jump again.
Yeah, we allow you to restores one jump if you get struck while you're in the air.
That's cool.
Yeah, we don't want to be too.
Yeah, in previous runs I had managed to either avoid that crab or entirely knock it off before it transformed. So, wasn't a problem until this run. The room to the right there, I think that's the furthest I've gotten.
I'd like to know what you think of that boss when you eventually get to him. Maybe you get to him this time. We'll see.
We'll see.
But,
am I fairly close?
Oh, maybe about.
Oh crap!
Halfway.
I just did a double jump straight up.
Oh
No.
Yep, that's a waste of a double jump.
Yeah.
So, Chris, do you think you can beat this without dying at this point?
I mean, he said he has.
I still get killed in the secret level. I still get killed there every once in a while. but I'm almost there. But to be honest, I've been looking at this for a year and a half. I'm kind of not looking at it at the moment usually. So after I've taken probably a month off or so, I'll come back and play it and actually truly enjoy it, because I'll have forgotten large chunks of it, because I haven't been staring at it every day. And I think it'll be a little bit more enjoyable for me. But right now, yeah, I'm pretty close to not dying, except for in the special level, because that one's actually very hard.
As opposed to all these other very hard levels.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure.
These very easy levels. I took care of that crap that time. With the
there's another
spear.
from Matthew. Thank you. Saying there was a Street Fighter II arcade machine at my local Shopco growing up, and a 4-player Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles machine in another store in town. So I wonder where they ended up. I mean, I feel like that original 4-player Ninja Turtles is is a definitive arcade experience.
Probably my storage.
One of the definitive. What's that?
It's probably sitting in my storage.
Oh yeah.
So you wonder what happened with the arcade machines as far as the machines themselves.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh.
I have. I just have the
I choked.
PCB.
I choked.
Arcade board for it, but I use a super gun to play the arcade games. But you
Nice.
also worked on the Ninja Turtles.
I did.
Cowabunga collection.
I did. Yes.
Man, I am sure it's a story that can't be told, and it's really it's probably not even something you would even know that much about, because it's probably mostly Konami's doing. But the fact, one of my absolute favorite things about that collection is that it's got all of the Nintendo branding, Nintendo seal of quality, Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. That stuff is all over that collection, no matter what version you play. That's not scrubbed off of the boxes, the advertisements, and the museum. None of that stuff. And
there was a great deal of work that went into making sure that happened. There was actually talk at one point of trying to actually get the original, to work with Pizza Hut to get the coupon for. You remember? That was a big deal.
Limited Run did do that for Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but it was that was one of those things where I was like, oh, somebody else got it. But yeah, we even tried to do that, but there's a lot of work that went into making sure that we were able to do that. And yeah, Konami did a lot of heavy lifting on that as well. So a lot of legal hoops to jump through, especially when you make games like those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. There's all kinds of different licensing hoops you have to jump through, depending on the time period, different owners of the different licensing. So it's not just Konami. It's Eastman Laird, all the estates, all the stuff that you have to go through. There's many hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, when it comes to licensed products. It's one of the reasons why we don't get to see things as much as I would love to see it. More things done with the Dungeons and Dragons Capcom games. Those are some of my favorite games of all time.
Oh yeah.
And we got a little bit of a kind of so release on the 360. It's all right, but they didn't do anything with it, which is kind of a shame to me. But I would love to see that. But those are problematic because of licensing and timing of the licensing, and it's very difficult to get that to work. And I'm glad that you noticed the effort that went into that. Make a lot of people at Digital Clips very happy, myself included, because a lot of work did go into that, and it was very hard to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that become standard practice, but it's hard to say if that's what you achieved with that is going to move the needle on, or if that's just a special exception.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on. It comes down to money. It depends on if the person funding these things, if that has value to them, and how much it's going to cost to grease the palms of others in order to make these things work, right?
Yeah.
If licensors want to ask things that are too big, then that's where it becomes a problem. You just can't pull it off because it's just too much money or whatever. Games have to be profitable even in documentary games, they still need to be profitable, or you put yourself out of business. I mean, you can't. Goodwill only goes so far. You know, at the end of the day, it's still work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really quick, there was another $5 from Matthew who bought.
Thank you.
Bought a Honda Element over the weekend. Got some new tires, struts, and registration. So unfortunately, not going to buy any arcade cabinets anytime soon.
Understandable. Understandable.
Well, is that gonna do it?
Yeah, they'll do it. I apologize. I was not able to get deeper into the game than I could, but I was determined to stick with the as intended difficulty. I mean, that's what I like to play, even if it takes me a lot of time. Like I enjoy struggles like this. I may not be the best at it, but I still enjoy the struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second level in Volgarr 2 is the gut check. And it's the same with the first game. The water level in the second game did the same thing. It showed people whether or not this game was going to be for them or not, really. And that's kind of how we viewed that. If you beat the water level, you're going to beat the rest of the game. You're going to be committed to beating the rest of the game. Yeah. So, anyway.
But yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking at it's rock. Is the website just rocketgames.com? Like, as in like ROCKIT, rock it, not rocket. Rock
right.
it games.
Yes.
That's where the Volgarr 2 physical is. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to be I did not know that it was already up for pre-order. I've never ordered anything from there before, so I'm not on their.
They're new.
I need to get on their mailing list. That's why I didn't. That's why I didn't know, because I'm like all these other physical distributors. I'm on the mailing list, so yeah, I need to get on that and order it. I'm definitely going to do that after the stream, because I would be upset if I miss my chance to get a physical of this one. I've got a physical of the first, and now that I've got a taste of this, I need to go back and I need to play through the first, and then get back to this one. Although you intimidated me a little bit by saying that the shield can the metal shield, you have to work up to it, and the basic shield can only take 2 hits. But obviously the game is going to be designed with that in mind, and it's clear that this game is designed with the knowledge that you've always got this good shield. So.
Correct. Yeah, you can lose the shield that you have in Volgarr 2, as you see him right now at that magic shield. You can lose that in the first game. Yeah, it's a power up.
Right.
And your basic shield that you start with does not block forever. It can take 2 hits before it shatters. The mechanics are different. The game's been balanced around, as you said. You're right. It's been balanced around those things in the first game, as things are bounced around what we have in the second game as well. Like we throw more at you in the second game because we know that you're stronger and you have more things and things of that nature. The first game's a little bit more slower, a little bit slower paced, and then the second game it's got a little bit more platforming elements mixed in with it.
Oh yeah, Cloud's got a good point here. He says it's a good warm up before Shadow of the Ninja tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to be doing. Drum and I are going to do co-op Shadow of the Ninja Returns, which I hear is pretty difficult. I bet this is more difficult, but I hear it's pretty difficult. So we'll see how that goes.
Yes,
I did enjoy it. So
excellent.
I like that one.
Excellent.
Yeah, they're doing good work. I think.
Yep. Love Tingo Project.
Yep.
All right. Well,
thanks to everybody who donated,
watching.
and thanks to Chris for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. It's a good time.
All right. Well, we will see you all next time.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.